This is Atomic Shinobi, and today I'm going to narrate second part of What If Broken Naruto was raised by Jiraiya. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
The 5 days had flown by, and Naruto was eager to begin the chunin examinations. At least half of what he had learned from Jiraiya could now be demonstrated to everyone. Additionally, while training in Myobokuzen, he may have made one or two items himself. At the moment, Naruto was conversing with Jiraiya while perched atop the fourth Hokage's head. Naruto screamed, "What do you mean I can't use that jutsu? Fine, if you're going to make such a big fuss over it, you can use it. But save it for the last part of the exams." Naruto leapt with delight. "I can finally prove to everyone that I'm not a weakling," Naruto exclaimed with a sense of triumph. "Now don't lose your head if that girl gets hurt. In these exams people can and will die, especially the second and third part of the exams." Naruto questioned, "People can die in the first part?" "Yeah. There was that one time this person had a heart attack. Never mind that, just don't lose your cool and do something you'll regret." "Fine, I think I'll be able to handle that easily enough." "I hope so. After his team defeated the Forest of Death, I might have to watch him." Jiraiya was confident that Naruto and his group would advance to the last exam section. Naruto questioned, "So, Pervy Sage, who did this sword belong to?" He was interested because no one had ever mentioned who had previously owned the sword. "Well, it was the fourth Hokage's. He left it for Kakashi the night before he went out to face the Kyuubi. Kakashi never used it though, and he saw it fit to give it to you," Jiraiya responded. Given that Naruto had the exams to consider, Jiraiya didn't think it was a good idea for him to know the truth at this time. Naruto exclaimed, "Cool, I got something from the fourth Hokage," over his shoulder. "Calm down, it's about time you met up with your team and head to the first part of the exams," Jiraiya said. Jiraiya's announcement that it was time seemed to instantly calm Naruto down. "Okay, Pervy Sage, I'll see you around then." Naruto vanished into a leaf whirlpool. I wish he had known that it was his father's sword. When Jiraiya's nose began to bleed a little, his train of thought shifted. "Perhaps after the exams are over, I'll tell him." Jiraiya exclaimed, "There is disturbance in the perv." He disappeared like a whirl of leaves. Sasuke and Sakura together before heading to the first section of the tests. Sakura and Sasuke were on their way to meet Kiba. Sasuke, there is something different about you after the training sessions with Team 8, you're acting different," Sakura said. The abrupt 180-degree shift in his behavior was beyond her comprehension. Naruto answered a question for them, that's all. She would have to thank Naruto for it later, even though she didn't understand what that meant. The day prior to the chunin exams is a flashback. On their fourth day of group training, teams 7 and 8 had just gotten together. Kakashi and Kurenai had made the decision to divide the genin into two-person groups. Sasuke teamed up with Naruto, Shino with Kiba, and Hinata with Sakura. With the exception of Naruto and Sasuke, who appeared to wander into the woods, each group went and began to train and spar. Nobody knew why. Naruto and Sasuke were separated from their teammates and sensei. "Hey Dobi, I need you to answer a question for me." "What might that be, Teme?" "Kakashi told me once that you don't let your past blind you. What exactly did he mean by that?" "Well, I'll give you the short version of my miserable life then. Let's see, when I was 6 I was kicked out of the orphanage. I lived on the streets for a while, but mostly in the park where I could hide from the villagers who wanted to beat me. After I was found by some Anbu, I was given an apartment by the Hokage. That didn't stop the villagers from writing, 'Demon Child,' on the walls of it or beating me when there were festivals. Up until a few years ago, when Pervy Sage took me in, I was beat quite often and sent to the hospital." Even that brief account of Naruto's life made Sasuke feel a little sick. "And you still protect these ungrateful people?" "I do. I have friends here, Sasuke, as do you. But unlike you, my motivation to train and become strong is to protect them." Naruto responded. "What's yours?" Naruto inquired. Sasuke felt compelled to tell Naruto, but he wasn't sure why. "Mine is to kill my brother and avenge my clan." "Noble goal as that is, all I see you do is push away the people who could help you become stronger. Pervy Sage told me once, all of the strongest ninja today wouldn't be half as good as they are if they secluded themselves from everyone to become stronger. And Sasuke, that's exactly what you're doing." Naruto started walking away from Sasuke as he said, "I would rethink the reason you want to become strong. Because you will most likely end up second-rate otherwise." Sasuke started to recall a story his brother had told him. In any way besides making him a sulky brat, what his brother had told him seemed to do more harm than good. Although the Uchiha were naturally skilled fighters, if Naruto's claims were accurate, he could become much more powerful if he accepted assistance from others. The flashback has ended. The two simply strolled silently until they ran into Kiba. After a few brief minutes of conversation, they made the decision to leave for the examination building on their forums. In Ichiraku's Shino and Hinata were waiting for Naruto at the ramen stand when he arrived. Naruto said, "Hey guys, been waiting long?" Shino answered, "No, I just got here myself. I arrived a few seconds before Shino did, so we haven't been waiting long," Hinata responded. When Tucci put the ramen in front of the genin, Naruto ceased speaking. "Great, we still have some time to eat then, before we have to. You guys eat here so often, I thought that, seeing as today was the start of the chunin exams, I'd make this round of ramen on the house," Tucci stated. Naruto screamed, "Awesome, thank old man," and started eating his ramen. Tucci cheerfully answered, "Naruto, you've always been my best customer, not a problem." Naruto slurped some ramen and said, "Well, you do tend to attack some who talk bad about me." Tucci answered, "Yeah, well, I just don't like ignorant people is all." Two somewhat familiar individuals entered the stand as the three genin were finishing their ramen. Naruto said, Well, if it isn't Gozu and Maizu," noodles were dangling from his mouth. "So what have you guys been up to since you got here?" Ever since they arrived in the village, Gozu and Maizu had changed in appearance. They were no longer always wearing gauntlets. The ragged clothing and face masks were gone. They still wore their long hair, but they dressed like any other chunin in the village. "Not much. Just patrols and guard duty within the village. We're still kind of on probation," Maizu responded. "Hey Tucci, can my friend Gozu over here and I get 2 miso with pork?" Tucci said, "Sure, coming right up. How's Haku been?" inquired Hinata. "Pretty good, he met some girl, although he won't tell us her name," replied Gozu. "Not like we've even seen her, Gozu. I think only Zabuza knows what she looks like," Maizu said. Gozu let out a sigh. "Yeah, no one ever tells us anything." They ate in silence as Tucci set the ramen in front of them. Shino turned to observe how the two were eating simultaneously. "Even when not fighting, you two acted in unison," Shino said. Maizu remarked, "Yeah, kind of a bad habit." Gozu concluded, "We developed during the partner training." Tucci had given Naruto one last bowl, which he had just finished. "Alright, guys, we'd better get going." After nodding, Hinata and Shino left for the location where the first portion of the tests would be held. Just as Team 7 was getting to the exam building, Team 8 showed up. To the distaste of Sasuke and Naruto, the two teams had been training together for the last 5 days. Although the two were permitted to spar lightly, Kakashi and Kurenai believed it would be best if they held off on fighting until after the exams. During those 5 days, Naruto and Sasuke were fiercely competitive and faced one challenge after another. Despite their constant denials of such charges, the two appeared to become friends during that period. Before the two teams entered the building, Naruto and Sasuke simply exchanged glances. After climbing 2 flights of stairs, the two teams proceeded down the hallway to the next flight of stairs. When the two groups noticed a group of genin standing in front of a second-floor door, they halted. Kiba inquired, "We're on the 2nd floor, right?" Since the genin appeared to be standing in front of a door that was guarded by 2 other genin, he couldn't understand why. The 3rd floor was where they had to be. "Those two put up a weak genjutsu to fool the other genin," Shino responded. Hinata inquired, "So it's kind of like a pretest of sorts?" Shino answered, "Exactly, at least that is what I believe it to be." Sasuke and Naruto made some remarks before the group simply passed the group of tricked genin. Naruto yelled, "What a crappy genjutsu, we're only on the 2nd floor, loud enough for everyone to hear." "As much as I hate to agree with you, Dobi, you're right, it's pretty bad," replied Sasuke. In response, the other members of the two teams simply nodded. The genin teams there were either perplexed or incensed when teams 8 and 7 passed by. Kakashi and Kurenai were waiting for them when they reached the 3rd floor and the entrance to the first exam room. Kurenai smiled and remarked, "I'm glad to see you all here." "Yes," Kakashi remarked, glancing at the clock, "you only have another 20 minutes to spare." Kurenai said, "Well, good luck, we will be waiting to hear how you all did from the proctor," and then she and Kakashi disappeared. Team 10 was standing there when the two teams entered the door. They also appeared to have just arrived. Naruto said to Team 10, "Oh hey guys, you decided to take the exams too?" "Yeah, although now I'm regretting it, this thing's going to be such a drag," replied Shikamaru. Sakura inquired, "So what do you think this exam is all about?" Sasuke answered, "I don't know, it probably won't be anything too hard." Naruto complained, "I hope it's nothing too boring." Shino sighed and adjusted his glasses as Hinata giggled. One of the ninjas wearing a leaf headband said, You guys should stop talking like this as a picnic. He had rather big glasses and mostly wore purple. Gazing at him, the genin pondered his identity. Ino questioned, "Who are you?" "My name is Kabuto, and I'm taking the exams just like you." "You guys really should act more like ninja than kids," Kabuto remarked, gesturing to the sizable number of genin occupying the seats. The 9 rookies glanced at the genin, who all appeared much older and more seasoned than they were. The fact that there were genin from numerous villages was evident, and not only because of their headbands. Some wore face masks and mohawks, while others wore vests and others wore plain shirts or cloaks that covered their necks. Shikamaru inquired, "So have you been here before, Kabuto?" "Yeah, 7 times now," he humorously remarked. "So you know a lot about what's going to happen, right?" replied Sasuke. Kabuto said, "Yep, I even have these," and produced a stack of what appeared to be cards. When Kabuto took out one of the cards and inserted chakra into it, a map and a 3-dimensional image appeared. "What's that?" inquired Sakura. "This is a map of the elemental nations. It also has the number of genin teams sent to here to take the chunin exams," replied Kabuto. With enough volume for everyone in the room to hear, Ino exclaimed, "Wow, the Sound Village must be pretty weak if they only sent 1 team." "No, they're just new, that's all," Kabuto answered his question. Sasuke inquired, "Do you have information on individuals?" "Yeah, I sure do." "Alright, show me Gaara." "Alright, Gaara, it's time now." Kabuto withdrew a card and used chakra to reveal his personal details and missions accomplished. "Well, this is impressive. He's done quite a few B and C ranked missions. And he's never been injured, which is quite a feat, although I have no data on his fighting abilities now. That's odd." When they heard what that Gaara kid was capable of, the majority of the rookie 9 tensed up. Kabuto said, "This year, the genin teams shouldn't be taken lightly." Naruto shouted, "Yeah, so what? I'll take them all on right now." He was eager to demonstrate his abilities. The genin seated all clutched their weapons and scowled at the loud-mouthed blonde. Now, calm down. You'll have plenty of chances to fight during the next part of the exams," said Kabuto. Sakura screamed, "Yeah, shut up, Naruto, I don't want to die just yet." The blonde-haired brat's remark about being weak made the Sound Ninja unhappy in the throng of candidates. A black, spiky-haired ninja asked, "You heard what that blonde bitch said about our village?" "Yeah, she said we were weak," a long-haired black female ninja said. "I think we should show her we aren't." "Agreed," said the third teammate, who had bandages all over most of his face. The genin sound darted quickly through the genin crowd. After evading every other genin, the female sound genin hurled 3 senbon needles straight at Ino's head. A newcomer's senbon intercepted the senbon needles halfway through. The rookie 9 and the sound genin were now separated by 2 very familiar figures. The sight of Zabuza Momochi, the former demon of the mist, seemed to make the whole room tense. "Cut the crap. There is no fighting, at least not in here." "Hey, Zabuza. Haku, how you been? I haven't really seen you since we got back from Wave," Naruto giggled. "Hey brat. Yeah, we have been pretty busy since we joined the village," replied Zabuza. The blonde child's casual conversation with the former demon of the mist left the entire room in a state of shock. Without knowing that Haku was a ninja or that he collaborated with Zabuza Momochi, Ino simply gazed at him. Haku approached Ino. Haku was trying to think of something to say, but he was at a loss. I know I should have said something, it's just, well. So you were one of the ninja that joined with Zabuza?" Ino responded. Haku nodded, regretting not speaking up sooner. "I'm sorry, I didn't even think you would talk to me if you knew." With a bored tone, Zabuza said, "Haku, you can discuss this with the girl later. The exams are about to start." With a sigh, Haku asked Ino, "Would it be alright if we talk later?" "Of course," said Ino. As soon as the first proctor and his helpers entered the room, Zabuza and Haku vanished. "Alright. Cut the crap. I am Ibiki Morino, your first proctor. The first exam beings now," Ibiki replied, capturing everyone's interest. Ibiki wore a headband over the rest of his head and had 2 rather large scars on his face. In addition, his long black coat gave him a foreboding appearance. Across the room, Naruto yelled at Ibiki, "Hey, what's up, Scarface?" They wanted to laugh, but nobody did. Ibiki shouted, "Get your asses into a seat or be disqualified now." The blonde brat had given him a nickname that he didn't like. Everyone had sat down in a matter of seconds. Despite their best efforts to avoid it, Naruto and Hinata had managed to sit together. Naruto muttered, "Guy can't take a joke, can he?" Hinata's secret boyfriend made her laugh uncontrollably. "Now the first part of the exams is a written test," Ibiki said. Naruto muttered, "You've got to be kidding me." Ibiki began writing on the chalkboard behind him, saying, "I have a few rules and I don't like repeating myself, so pay attention the first time." These tests are graded on a point reduction system. You will begin the test with a perfect score of 10 points, but every question you answer incorrectly, well, it's easy enough to guess that 1 point will be reduced for each wrong answer. Teams will pass on the total score between the ninja on the team, so not just 1 or 2 of you have to pass, but all 3 of you have to pass. Ibiki finished writing on the board in front of him. "Dude, what a drag," Shikamaru reflected. "Now the ninjas seated around the room are there to make sure you don't cheat. Every time they do catch you cheating, they will deduct 2 points. A word of warning. Don't get caught 5 times or you will be out of here before the test is over." Naruto thought, "Dude, that scar face needs to lighten up a bit." Now the 10th question will be given out 15 minutes before the end of the exams. Now begin. Everyone started reading the questions after turning over their papers. "Well, I am unable to respond to any of these inquiries. I guess I'll just draw something," Naruto thought, "because I have no way of cheating without getting caught." The test didn't really concern him. All he would need to do is answer the 10th question correctly. As they read through the questions, the other genin wondered how they were going to respond to them. After 10 minutes, several teams had already been called out. By then, everyone was aware that the only way to truly answer the test's questions was to cheat. The only question was if you could do it without getting caught. Sakura was able to answer every question without resorting to cheating. Simply put, she was too intelligent for her own good. By activating her Byakugan, Hinata was able to see the answers without even having to look in a certain direction. For his part, Shino obtained the answers to the questions by using his bugs. To find out which candidates had already responded to the questions, he had distributed a few bugs around the room. Ino would use her mind transfer jutsu to get the answers they needed, so Team 10 was waiting for her. In order to obtain the test answers he required, Kiba was using his dog Orochimaru as a spotter. Only 20 minutes remained, and roughly half of the genin teams had already been eliminated. When Ibiki called time, Naruto had just completed sketching another frog in one of the answer boxes. Ibiki's dark tone made many of the genin feel uneasy. "Okay, you degenerates, it's time for the 10th question. Now there are some special rules that only apply to question 10. Try not to let them frighten you," he said. In a waiting room, Asuma and Kurenai Kakashi were seated in a room near the location of the initial exams. In the middle of the small space was a coffee table, and there were couches on either side of the table. Kurenai sat up against Kakashi on one couch, and Asuma sat on the other. Kakashi said, "I wonder how they're doing." Asuma responded, "Not sure. Probably not too well, considering Ibiki is the first proctor," while tossing his cigarette into the can of garbage. "So they got that sadist to be the proctor this year?" "What do you mean?" inquired Kurenai. "Well, he's head of the torture unit for the Anbu. He doesn't use physical torture. All he has to do is talk and he will have you spilling your guts about everything," replied Kakashi. Jiraiya announced, "Yeah, and I'm going to make $200 off him," as she and Zabuza entered the room. Kurenai questioned, "What do you mean you're going to make money off Ibiki?" "Oh, you will see," Jiraiya said, grinning broadly. In the examination room, "All right. Rule 1. You are free to choose to answer the 10th question or not." "Wait, what if we choose not to answer the 10th question?" Temari replied. Ibiki begins to laugh ominously. "Even if you got all the other answer correct, you would get a 0 and you and your team fails." The class was filled with murmured whispers. "Now let me finish. If you choose to take the 10th question and answer incorrectly, you will be banned from ever taking this exam again." "That's a huge load of crap. There are tons of people here who got to take this exam more than once." Kiba began to scream. Sadistically, Ibiki remarked, "Well, I wasn't making the rules back then." Naruto turned to face Hinata, who was twitching uneasily. Naruto calmed her by placing a hand on hers. "All right. Those who do not want to attempt the 10th question, raise your hands." Nothing happened for a little while until a female genin who was close to Naruto and Hinata apologized to her teammates and raised her hand to depart. After the first team left, many others did the same out of concern that they would make a mistake. Ibiki gave Naruto a look. He appeared to be distractedly drawing something. "Did you not hear what I said, Blondie?" "Yeah, I heard what you said and I think you're full of shit, Scarface." "You'll need to try harder to scare me," replied Naruto. "So you're saying you're going to stay then?" "Damn right, Scarface. I came here to take the exams, not to chicken out because of something like this." Ibiki asked one final time, "So you're sure you want to take the last question then?" "Try your hardest," Naruto retorted. After hearing the blonde brat's words, everyone in the room stiffened their resolves, and Ibiki looked around. Well, Ibiki thought, it looks like they don't want to lose to a genin who just graduated from the academy. Very well, I guess I have one thing left to say, and that is, you all pass. Everyone gaped in shock at the first proctor. They couldn't figure out why a 10th question wasn't asked. Naruto attracted everyone's attention by saying, okay, I'm starving. Now that this tedious part of the exams is over, I'm going to get some ramen. Just as Temari opened her mouth to ask the 10th question, something flew through the window. The purple-haired snake mistress of Konoha was standing there. You're slipping, Ibiki. You let far too many pass this time. Maybe. Or it could be we just have a great crop of candidates this year, Anko. Yeah, right. I'll be sure to cut them the numbers down by less than half when I'm done with them. Following Anko's remarks, you could hear a number of people gulping. Alright, you little maggots, you will meet me at training ground 44 tomorrow morning. I'll be sure to let your sensei know. Dismissed. The Genina, at least the majority of Tama, left the room in silent bewilderment. Although they still didn't fully understand the 10th question, they would probably do so in the future. The genin started discussing how many of the questions they could answer as everyone was making their way down the hall. Shikamaru said, "Hey Naruto, how many did you answer?" Naruto exclaimed joyfully, "None at all, but I did draw some pictures on the page during the test." One of the genin who passed the 10th question exclaimed, "Wait, you passed without even answering a single question?" "Yep. Idiot," mumbled Sasuke. "Teme," retorted Naruto. The genin noticed smiles on the faces of Naruto and Sasuke. According to Shikamaru, "Man, tomorrow is going to be such a drag." "Oh, stop whining," Temari yelled. After leaving the exam building, the genin teams parted ways. Ino had mixed feelings about a certain boy with dark hair. When she saw him, she didn't know what to say. Returning to the examination room when Ibiki reached the blonde's test sheet, he was collecting the others. He looked at what the boy had actually written on the page and said, "Well, that's interesting. I passed someone who insulted me and didn't answer any of my questions." The page featured drawings of toads and the words, "Scarface," written all over it. Additionally, there was writing at the bottom of the page. "Consider a more interesting test. This one was really dull, and a few of us are fighters and won't be sent on information-gathering missions." As he left the room carrying the test sheets, Ibiki thought, "That boy is rather interesting. He acts like a complete idiot, but is quite the opposite." The Junin senseis were waiting in the room when Ibiki entered. Kurenai inquired, "So how did our genin do?" "Well, they all passed, and that one called Naruto gave me a nickname," Ibiki responded. Naruto kept calling him, and he detested it. Asuma inquired, "What did he call you?" "He called me Scarface. I rather dislike it," Ibiki said. Ibiki's new moniker made the three Junin try not to laugh. "You owe me 200 Ibiki," Jiraiya exclaimed with delight. Taking the money from his coat, Ibiki said, Yeah, not like you need the money anyhow," and gave it to him. The room's Junin were perplexed as to what their wager might have been. Seeing their perplexity, Jiraiya made the decision to explain the true nature of the wager. "I bet Ibiki here that Naruto would give him a nickname that went with his facial features." Ibiki remarked with a laugh, which the kid did as soon as I appeared in the room. Ibiki was genuinely shocked that a 12-year-old had the courage to do such a thing, but he wasn't angry about it at all. Upon glancing at the clock, the Junin instructors realized it was time to leave. Jiraiya and Ibiki were left in the room. "So Ibiki, what did you think of Naruto? He's hiding lots of things from us." "That's what I think." Jiraiya took a seat on the edge of one of the couches after laughing. "I'm sure you're right. Even I don't know everything that goes on in his head anymore." "So, do you think he has spoken with the fox? By now?" "Yeah, he probably has. Of course I doubt he will tell anyone that, though." "Well, we are all entitled to our own secrets. That means a lot coming from you, considering you're the head of the interrogation unit." After laughing, the two men left the room. To get a drink, they were heading to a bar. Alongside Ino, they had completed the first exam a few hours prior. Asuma Sarutobi, their sensei, had met up with Ino and her group. She had just left the restaurant where she and her group had dinner in celebration of passing the first section of the test. With a sigh, Ino's thoughts strayed to a boy named Haku, who had long brown hair, but that was all she knew about him. That was untrue, though, as she now knew that he and Zabuza Momochi had just moved to the village. Ino strolled in the direction of her mother's flower shop. She was surprised to find Haku waiting for her outside the store. Ino inquired, "How long have you been waiting?" "Since the first exam started. I felt I deserved to be made to wait, since you had to do the same for me, concerning my ties with Zabuza," Haku responded. "Oh, I see," said Ino. "Are you angry with that I didn't tell you?" "Disappointed a little, I guess, but not angry." Haku said, "How about we start over then?" Ino grinned. "Sure, my name is Ino Yamanaka. What's yours?" "Mine is Haku Momochi." Ino was perplexed by the last name and asked, "Momochi?" "Yes, Zabuza adopted me recently. He really isn't as bad as everyone makes him out to be." Ino grinned. "Sounds interesting. Tell me more," she exclaimed with joy. Talking about the other side of Zabuza that not everyone sees, the two entered the flower shop. The genin teams were positioned in front of one of the several gates that surrounded Training Area 44. There were huge trees beyond the gates. The trees in the area had a nearly ancient appearance. Whatever insects or animals were present would most likely prove to be extremely harmful. Kurenai advised them to prepare enough supplies for a few days at the very least. Team 8's 3 genin were making sure they had everything they would require. Each of them had a small backpack with items they would need for this exam step. Kurenai had warned them about the dangers of the upcoming exam portion. But until they saw the forest they would be entering, they didn't really believe it would be. Since the bugs inside of him act as his doctors in a way and help sustain his body in an emergency, Shino had brought the lightest of the 3. Naruto packed a lot. He had a few storage scrolls in his backpack that contained an assortment of unknown items. He had his sword with him, of course. He suspected that he would use it frequently. Though she mostly packed medical supplies, Hinata also packed a lot. She recently started learning the fundamentals of field medicine. She felt she should do more because she wasn't the best fighter. Before Naruto spoke, the 3 were staring at the enormous fence that encircled the whole forest. "Shino, do you think you could use the bugs within that place to our advantage?" replied Naruto. "Excellent idea, Naruto. That would give us a great advantage," replied Shino. Shino was taken aback by Naruto's suggestion. Naruto had never before demonstrated much intelligence. Naruto said, "So what's our plan?" "Well, I can find a team for us to fight with my Byakugan," Hinata muttered. "And I'll use my bugs and the bugs within the forest to help use either trap or kill the opposing team," said Shino. "Well, seems we have our strategy down," Naruto grinned. Teams 7 and 10 were visible to Naruto. They appeared to be having a conversation among themselves. Like Team 8, they were most likely attempting to come up with a strategy. When Anko appeared in front of the genin group, everyone turned. She approached them while munching on some dango. "Welcome to Training Area 44, or the Forest of Death, as I like to call it. This is where the real exam begins. There are 2 scrolls. Earth and Heaven. Each team will receive one or the other, and you will fight each other to obtain both. I would prefer you fight to the death, but that's me. This will cut the number of teams passing by at least half. Now, one person from each team, go over to the tent and receive your scrolls." Each team designated a team leader, who then proceeded to the tent to pick up a scroll. Shikamaru groaned and bitched, but he chose Team 10. Sasuke chose Team 7, and Naruto chose Team 8. Every team received a scroll. Strangely enough, an Earth scroll was given to each of the rookie teams. "Are you guys as uncomfortable with attacking one of the rookie teams as I am?" replied Naruto. Both Hinata and Shino nodded. They also didn't feel very comfortable with the idea of being attacked. Hinata answered, "I would rather help them than attack them, Naruto-kun." "Same here, Hinata-chan. What about you, Shino? Are you okay with that?" "I will help, whatever you two decide," he answered. "Great." Anko caught everyone's attention once more by clearing her throat. "Now, do not, under any circumstances, open those scrolls until you've reached the tower." Naruto said, "Why not, crazy snake lady?" Naruto simply moved aside to avoid the kunai as it sailed through the air. "Because you fail if you open them before then," she said, now standing behind Naruto with a kunai to his throat. Even with the kunai pressed against his throat, Anko saw that Naruto was incredibly composed and not at all panicking. Anko dropped the kunai and turned to leave. Hinata whispered, "Are you alright, Naruto-kun?" He answered, "Of course I am, Hinata-chan. Now you will have 5 days to get both scrolls and make it to the tower in the forest. You fail if you don't arrive at the tower in the forest with all 3 teammates and both scrolls. Now, all teams go find a gate and wait for them to open. When they do, the exam officially begins. Try not to die." A group of chunin instructors showed up and started leading them to a gate one by one. However, Anko and Team 8 had been abandoned at the gate. "If you're wondering, I've assigned Team 8 to leave from this gate," Anko said. "What?" inquired Naruto. "To reiterate, I'm assigning you to this gate," Anko said. "Any reason why?" inquired Shino. At last, every team had vanished from view in search of one of the 44 gates. "Iruka asked me to," Anko said, her face slightly flushed. Now that he knew why, Naruto grinned. So how are you two doing? Kurenai. Sensei told me you two were dating. A tiny smile spread across Anko's face as her blush deepened. Yeah, we are. He's such a great guy. I really like him. What about you? Find a girlfriend yet, Naruto? Nope, I don't have too many friends, let alone anyone my age that's a girl who's interested in me, replied Naruto. After hearing the blonde's words, Anko turned to face Hinata, who was wearing a particularly dejected expression. I see. Well, you'll find someone. Anko handed Naruto a note she had taken from her jacket. After opening it, Naruto started reading. Hey Naruto. This is Iruka. I just wanted to say good luck, and don't do anything too stupid to get yourself killed. I doubt you'll listen, but I had to say it all the same. Grinning, Naruto tucked the note into his pocket. Don't go and hurt Iruka now, he's one of the few that were ever nice to me. Anko smiled. I don't see that happening anytime soon, Gaki. Naruto grinned. Good to hear, crazy snake lady. I wish you wouldn't call me that. I call them like I see them. Naruto grinned broadly. Anko questioned, did you really call Ibiki Scarface? Yep. As soon as he entered the room, Anko couldn't contain his laughter. Man, I wish I could have seen his face. Anko was joined by a chunin. Ma'am, all the teams are in place and awaiting the signal to begin. Very good, open the gates in 30 seconds. The chunin said, hi, and vanished. Well, get ready, you three. I'm not one to say these sorts of things, but good luck. Thanks, said Naruto. Team 8 vanished into the forest of death as the gate abruptly opened. What a fascinating one. I wonder what he can do, Anko pondered. Anko vanished in a whirlpool of leaves to the closest dango shop, saying, I could use some more dango. Team 8 used a chakra enhanced jump to reach the tops of the trees as soon as the gates opened. They were all aware that leaving footprints on the ground was not the best course of action. Now, Team 8 was racing through the treetops, leaping from one enormous branch to another. In order to identify the enemy teams before they were discovered, Hinata activated her Byakugan. Shino was also searching for a team by scattering some of his bugs across the forest. Shino was also using his senses to determine which forest bugs would help them in a difficult situation. With Hinata at the front, Naruto in the center, and Shino at the rear, they were running in a line. About an hour into their journey through the treetops, Shino came to a halt. Naruto and Hinata took notice of that. Both of them halted and leapt to the branch that Shino was standing on. What's wrong? Inquired Naruto. There is a colony of forest leeches just ahead of us. If there are any teams close by, we can lure them into the leeches' territory, Shino stated. I see a team of grass shinobi close by, and they are coming this way. We should have a few minutes before they arrive. Hinata said. Hinata said excitedly, they have the heaven scroll, as she peered more closely at their possessions. They must have been from the gate closest to us. Shino, got a plan on how to get the leeches to work for us. The leeches will attack anything that goes under them, Naruto. Excellent. Naruto and Shino were instructed by Hinata to go to the opposite location from where the ninja would appear if they didn't choose to alter their course. After a few minutes, Naruto was chatting with his teammates when the grass shinobi emerged from the forest. At first, they all pretended not to notice the grass ninja. Naruto said, hey guys, we got company. The umbrellas that the grass ninja carried were probably weapons. To signal his teammates to stop moving, the lead ninja raised a hand. The lead ninja said, we'll be taking your scroll now. Well, come and get it then. Or are you afraid of some genin that are fresh out of the academy? Taunted Naruto. As he charged Team 8, one of the grass ninjas went directly beneath the leeches. They began devouring him after landing all over him. As the leaves tore pieces of flesh from his body, he let out a cry of pain. When one of the leeches moved to reveal his partially devoured face, the scene became even more gory. Half of him had already been eaten by the leeches, who had only been on him for seconds. The two grass ninjas that were left charged furiously. Out of nowhere, a massive centipede landed on one of the grass ninja after emerging from the trees. The shinobi's head was sliced off by the centipede's pincers in a single, powerful bite. As it started to eat the now dead ninja, the centipede was covered in blood. The grass squad leader started making jutsu hand signals. A sword blade emerged from his chest just as he was about to finish. Never underestimate your opponent, added Naruto in a somber tone. The now dead shinobi landed on the forest floor close to his two other deceased teammates after falling off Naruto's blade. The fox exclaimed, I have to say, kid, that was brutal, after seeing the carnage. Shut up, you know I don't like killing as much as you do. But you do it so well. If you don't like killing, you picked the wrong profession, my boy, replied the fox. Not like I had much of a choice, asshole, too true. Before the leeches could consume the scroll, Naruto leapt to the ground and grabbed it from the dead ninjas. He leapt alongside Hinata, who was rendered silent by the devastation. Naruto said, Hinata-chan, are you alright? Hinata remained silent. She simply gazed at the bodies. Naruto approached her and pulled her into him by putting his arms around her waist. She muttered, have you done that before? Have I had to kill before? Yes, back during the wave mission I killed some of Gado's thugs who invaded Tezuna's house. You looked so different when you killed that man. Naruto glanced at Shino, who gave him a nod before heading out to investigate. Just as Shino was leaving, Hinata's eyes started to water a little. Hinata and Naruto remained silent as they stood there. With a sigh, Naruto dabbed at her tears. With a worried tone, Naruto questioned, are you alright now, Hinata-chan? Hinata was afraid her voice would betray her, so she could only nod. Hinata blushed deeply as Naruto gazed into her eyes and gave her a passionate lip kiss. The sound of someone clearing their throat caused them to separate. Are you two ready to continue? It would be rather unwise to stay here for much longer, said Shino. About 20 feet away from them, he stood atop a tree branch. Ready, Hinata-chan? Asked Naruto with joy. After Hinata nodded and grinned, Team 8 started to head toward the tower through the trees. They were moving at full speed through the forest when Hinata stopped on a tree branch after gasping. What's up, Hinata-chan? Naruto urgently inquired. It's Kiba. He's being chased by an enormous snake. He looks really tired, and I'm not sure how much longer he can keep running and dodging it. Well, let's go help him then. Since Hinata was the one who knew where Kiba was, the three of them set off in her direction. When they got there, Kiba was frantically trying to avoid being eaten. Hinata, Shino, get Shikamaru and Kiba, I'll deal with the snake. The three leapt to ground level, where Kiba was being pursued, after they both nodded. Kiba was not going to be able to avoid the snake's lunge this time. However, Shino's unexpected tackle saved him. When Kiba was tackled, Hinata right caught Shikamaru. Naruto had leapt straight onto the enormous serpent. He took his sword out of its sheath and drove it into the monster's eye socket, piercing its brain. The blade was twisted by Naruto. As he did so, there was a noticeable crunching sound. The forest floor trembled a little as the hideous snake struck the ground. Naruto approached everyone, drew his sword, and started to clean it. Naruto thought, that snake was too big, even for this place. I would have to agree with you. That creature was out of place, even in this larger, than, normal forest. Jiraiya mentioned a man who can call forth enormous snakes, didn't she? I think he did. I believe the person's name was Orochimaru, or something like that. When Kiba raised her voice, Naruto was interrupted from his conversation with the fox. Kiba cried out, thanks for the help, guys. I thought I was about to die. No problem, said Naruto. Shino inquired, where are your teammates? I was separated from them when this grass ninja attacked us riding a giant snake. I haven't been running too long, maybe a few minutes, but that thing smashed me with its tail a few times. Well, we should go help your team. To help Team 7, Kiba and Team 8 headed off in the same direction from which he had come. When they saw Sasuke standing in front of Sakura, they stopped. Both of them appeared somewhat battered. The tasks were accepted with a nod from everyone. Shino, get your bugs ready. Hinata, try to get behind him and use your family's fighting style. Kiba, go inform Sasuke and Sakura what's going on, then join the fray. Hinata questioned, Naruto-kun, what are you going to do? Me, well, I'm going to go on a frontal assault with Kiba here, he responded. To give the others some time to position themselves, Naruto charged the grass genin. With a bored tone, the grass genin asked, more lowly genin join the party? Naruto pulled out his sword and swung and jabbed at the grass genin a few times, but he avoided all of them. Suddenly, Naruto was kicked through the air and landed hard beside Sasuke. Naruto stood up and turned to face the smirking Sasuke. Sasuke remarked, that seemed to hurt, you know it did, Teme, Naruto retorted vigorously. Sasuke leapt to the right, while Naruto leapt to the left. Sasuke launched a barrage of punches first, but the grass genin effortlessly parried his strikes. Naruto's target sidestepped and kicked him away just as he was about to use his katana to run the grass genin through. After striking the tree, Naruto vanished in a cloud of smoke. Kage Bunshin? Asked the grass genin. The grass genin said, maybe you're not just a worthless genin after all. But nobody listened, so they continued fighting. Shino was occupied with releasing his bugs in order to execute a clan technique. Hinata was moving stealthily in an attempt to get behind the grass genin to attack him, while Kiba was attempting to approach Orochimaru for an attack. Kiba was kicked through the air and into a tree by the grass ninja that materialized in front of him. Kiba stood up, gripping his right arm. Seeing her chance, Hinata leapt up behind the grass genin to attack. The man kicked her backwards just as she was about to strike him in the back, sending her flying. Before she crashed into a tree, Naruto grabbed her in midair. "You alright, Hinata-chan?" "Yes, thank you, Naruto-kun," Hinata said as she hurriedly dismounted him and joined the rest of the group in battle. They couldn't really hit the grass genin at all, no matter what they tried. To put it mildly, it was annoying. For her part, Sakura threw shuriken and kunai whenever the grass genin was distracted. Kaden. Great fireball jutsu. Sasuke's hand seals caused a huge fireball to fly at the grass genin as it faced Sakura. Half of his face was melted by the flames, so he couldn't escape it all. My, it seems you hit me a little. The grass genin appeared to be removing his skin, exposing a second face underneath. When the genin saw the man rip the skin off his face, they winced. It was an ugly sight. Even though the skin was fake, it was still repulsive. According to Naruto, "You're definitely not a genin, that's for sure." They were all shivered by the sly smile that the imposter genin gave them. Suddenly the grass imposter was covered in bugs. At last, Shino had taken action. "How interesting. Kakaichu beetles can be very deadly if you don't know how to deal with them," the man murmured. The majority of the beetles were swept away when the body the bugs were covering suddenly exploded in a fireball. After that, Shino had just one bug colony remaining. Kiba emerged with two kunai from behind a tree. He slashed and stabbed the phony grass genin, but the man easily sidestepped every blow. The Inuzuka was attacking while the grass genin was playing with him. Kiba was kicked by him after he stopped dodging, and the Inuzuka took off. Sasuke charged once more, this time hurling shuriken and kunai from his pouch as he approached. All of them were easily avoided by the imposter genin. Now standing directly in front of the imposter, Sasuke was hurling punches and kicks as forcefully and quickly as he could, but to no avail. Sasuke was kicked into the tree beside Sakura by the imposter genin. In front of Hinata, the genin imposter emerged from a tree branch. She flew into a tree after he kicked her in the stomach with such force that blood spurted from her mouth. She lay limp in Shino's arms after he caught her in midair. Naruto gave Shino a beseeching look, but Shino simply shook his head, stating that he was still unaware of her condition. In horror, Naruto stood motionless. Shino showed up beside Naruto, holding Hinata. She was knocked unconscious by the impact on the tree. "It's not life-threatening, but we need to get out of this battle soon." Red chakra was beginning to seep out of Naruto, who was now trembling with anger. When Shino saw this, he made the decision to remove the others from the battlefield. He was uncertain about Naruto's ability to control the nine-tailed fox's power. Shino was the only one who appeared to be aware of Naruto's situation thus far. The artificial grass genin's neck was unrealistically long. "It's time we end this little game of ours," he said. When the head approached Sasuke, he was paralyzed with terror. As it prepared to bite Sasuke's neck, the mouth widened. The head was abruptly smashed away by Naruto, who was glowing red. In front of Sasuke, Naruto stood. He lunged at the phony genin without saying anything. Naruto moved much more quickly than he had in the past. Naruto and the grass genin imposter were now fighting back and forth. It appeared as though Naruto was guiding the imposter away from the other genin as they battled. Shino showed up beside Team 7, holding the now unconscious Hinata. "We must go. Hinata needs rest as do the rest of us." Sasuke questioned, "What about the Naruto? He's buying us time to vacate the area, he knows as the rest of us do. We stand no chance against that man," replied Shino. Kiba and Sasuke complained, but they both knew that they were no longer truly capable of fighting. To which Sakura replied, "What's the plan? We find a safe place to hide for the moment, and wait." Kiba yelled, "What the hell kind of a plan is that?" "The only one available to us at the moment, that's what type plan it is," Shino said, sounding a little annoyed. Although Shino knew that was what Naruto wanted him to do at the moment, he still didn't want to leave him to fight by himself. On the forest floor, the genin sought out a spot to rest, even if it was only for a brief period of time. The base of a tree that served as a cave was where the 5 genin located a spot on the forest floor to place Hinata. Alongside Naruto, the phony genin and Naruto stood scowling at one another. "You denied me my reward, boy," the man yelled. To which Naruto replied, "I know I did." Orochimaru, the demonic chakra of the Kyuubi, was all over Naruto. He had slits in his red eyes, like a fox. The scars on his cheeks were more noticeable. and his hands now resembled claws. The snake Sannin said, "So you knew who I was the whole time?" The fact that this boy recognized him surprised Orochimaru a little. With his sword ready, Naruto lunged at Orochimaru, saying, "Yeah, Jiraiya told me all about his two teammates when he took me on as his student." The Kusanagi, long sword of the heavens, Orochimaru's own sword, was coughed up. The two stood apart once more after he deflected Naruto's blade. "So, you're the latest student of my old teammate, then you realize you're no match for me, boy." "Probably, but my goal was just to keep you busy, nothing more." Orochimaru grinned. He turned to face the demon containment. "Well, boy, my time grows short, but I can play for a little longer." Both of them swung their swords as they lunged at one another. Sparks flew from the force of their impact. Orochimaru parried Naruto's next swing and delivered a huge roundhouse kick to Naruto's head. A tree was struck by Naruto as he flew. The tree gave way under the force of the impact, sending tree fragments flying in all directions. Naruto was standing there with his chakra, formed ears and tail after the debris had settled. When a second tail started to form, a surge of demonic energy swept through the forest and into the village. Naruto was thankful that he was the demon's container at this moment because he would have perished sooner. Naruto started performing hand seals after driving his sword into the enormous branch he was standing on. Naruto said, "I'll show you a jutsu I created myself, I'm sure you'll like it." His voice had grown deeper and darker as he spoke. Naruto's voice was filled with anger as he spoke. Using what appeared to be 20 hand signs, he concluded, "Fuden. Kyuubi no Kitsune." Wind started to dash around Naruto. The wind created a fox's head in a matter of seconds. The body and tails came next. The wind. Powered 9. Tailed fox sped down in the direction of Orochimaru. He merely smirked while standing there. Before the wind fox crashed into him and destroyed the tree he was on, he said, "What a powerful jutsu." The snake Sannin's voice could be heard simultaneously from all directions. "You are an interesting one, Uzumaki Naruto. I look forward to another round." With his sword at his side, Naruto fell backwards against the tree as the red chakra faded. "I suppose I should feel honored by your jutsu," the fox remarked mockingly. "Shut up, furball, but thanks for the assist." Yeah, I don't need your thanks. I'm just not ready to die yet." 6 people gathered around Naruto before the two could engage in an insulting altercation. When Naruto looked up, he saw 4 Anbu, Haku, and Zabuza Momochi. Everyone took in the extent of the damage from the battle that had been fought here. Weakly, Naruto said, "Hey guys." The lead Anbu inquired, "What happened here?" "One of Jiraiya's teammates is back. I'm sure you know which one." Zabuza said, "Damn, kid, you look like hell." Naruto fell back against the tree after attempting to stand but failing. "Yeah, I feel like it too." The lead Anbu questioned, "Are you sure that was who you fought, Uzumaki?" Making a false report about that man's presence was something he wanted to avoid. "Yes, I'm sure." "Go inform who you have to." Only Zabuza and Haku remained after the Anbu vanished from view. Zabuza said, "So can you stand, kid?" With a frustrated tone, Naruto questioned, "Does it look like I can?" As he assisted Naruto in standing, Zabuza chuckled. Haku questioned, "Isn't this cheating?" Naruto grumbled, "Orochimaru cheated first. You get the crap kicked out of you, yet you still got room to complain." "I see," said Zabuza. "Would you guys mind dropping me off where my team is?" "Sure, I suppose we could." Haku grabbed his sword. "Of course." Haku approached Naruto, grabbed his sword, and yanked it from the tree. To locate Naruto's teammates, the 3 of them set out. They discovered his backpack along the way and picked it up. Before long, they reached the base of the tree where Team 8 was currently sleeping. "Hey guys, what's up? Where did Team 7 go to?" Naruto was knocked to the ground by Hinata's flying tackle hug as she emerged from the tree. Naruto let out a moan. His broken ribs were not much better as a result of that. "Well, we'll be going then." Haku and Zabuza vanished in a water whirlpool. Naruto managed to utter, "Hinata, my ribs." After releasing Naruto from the embrace, Hinata leapt to her feet. "I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking." Naruto stood up and gave her a kiss. "It's fine, could you help me up? We really should get out of the open." Shino approached Naruto and assisted him in climbing into their small hiding place. Team 7 left already after they rested for a bit. They said they need to get their second scroll. "I see, since we have both ours already it doesn't matter to us," replied Naruto. They placed Naruto against the tree's walls, and Shino nodded. Naruto fainted after they put him down. Hinata was initially concerned. but she quickly understood that he was simply tired. Get some rest, Hinata. I'll take first watch. Hopefully, Naruto will be ready to travel by tomorrow afternoon. After giving a nod, Hinata took a seat beside Naruto and promptly dozed off. Naruto awoke in the middle of the morning from his slumber within the tree structure that resembled a cave. When he felt something on him, he attempted to stand up. He noticed that Hinata was partially on top of him and snuggled against him when he looked down. Grinning, he gently pushed her away, but when he attempted to rise, he gave a painful grunt and collapsed again. Despite the Kyuubi's healing efforts, his ribs remained damaged. He yelled for Shino, who entered right away and assisted him in standing up. Naruto found it much simpler to move around after he got up. Shino inquired, "How are you feeling, Naruto?" "I feel like someone is constantly punching me in the ribs," he replied. "But we should really be going." "Yes," replied Shino. After witnessing Naruto's unsuccessful attempt to get up the first time, Shino expressed concern, saying, "I think that would be the best course of action, but what about you? Are you healed enough?" "How is Hinata?" inquired Naruto. He reasoned that by staying to fight, he had alarmed her. And when he was taken to the camp with Zabuza's assistance, it worried her even more. He noticed some tears on Hinata's cheeks as he looked down at her. "Hinata was very frantic when she woke up and saw you weren't around. She even tried to leave at one point and I almost had to restrain her," Shino responded. Leaning against the tree, Shino let out a sigh. When he noticed some of his bugs coming back, he raised his hand. Once more, Naruto glanced down at Hinata. "I see. How many days till we have to be at the tower?" replied Naruto. Shino answered, "You only slept for one night. We have 4 days left." The response from Naruto was, "Oh, that's good." When Hinata opened her eyes, Naruto was no longer by her side. Hinata leapt to her feet. Hinata asked, "Where's Naruto-kun?" and eventually noticed Naruto standing beside Shino. With a sigh of relief, Hinata approached Naruto. Team 8 started talking about their strategy. Even though it wasn't realistic to think they could avoid every team on their way to the tower, Naruto was pretty battered and had to try to avoid them all. However, they hoped to steer clear of the majority of them. After some time of conversation, Naruto consented to take short breaks while traveling to the tower with Hinata. She did not want him to exert himself excessively. Shino laughed as he listened to the entire exchange. Naruto would have persisted in arguing with him or her if it had been someone else. That bit of information made Shino laugh a lot. Naruto needed Shino's assistance to get up, but once they were in the trees, he was just fine. Tower of Hokage. When Kurenai learned about the conditions her team faced in the Forest of Death, she was, to put it mildly, shocked. She was aware of Orochimaru, Asani. Who hadn't? But she didn't think he would show up for the tests. Kurenai questioned, "What are we going to do?" "Hiruzen, I'm not sure. Jiraiya should be here soon," he said. Hiruzen received the report yesterday, but he needed to speak with a few important individuals before he could decide how to proceed. Kakashi inquired, "What about the conditions of teams 7 and 8? "From what Naruto told me, they're all fine, just a bit banged up," replied Zabuza. "He told me he knew who the guy was from the beginning when they joined the fight, but he didn't tell anyone else." Kakashi remarked, "I see, so Naruto is keeping it from everyone?" Zabuza answered, "Yes, he thinks it's best to do that for the time being." "Well, I do have to say, Naruto is a lot smarter than I thought he was," said Kurenai. "Of course he is. I taught him a lot over his training, and so did the Toads. Hell, I don't even really know what he's capable of anymore." All of them turned to face Jiraiya, who was seated on the windowsill and the source of the voice. He was clearly aware of the reason everyone was present because of the serious expression on his face. "Ah, good, you're here, Jiraiya. Now we can get down to business," Hiruzen said. "What do you think we should do?" "Well, I think we should have Anbu watching every visiting ninja, just in case they're plotting something with him," Jiraiya responded. "I know my old teammate. He has plans to do something to the village. Do I know what they are? No, but I can assure you, he isn't here for a chat." Hiruzen said, "Very well. I'll have Anbu shadow all 4 ninja groups." Jiraiya inquired, "So how is Naruto doing out there?" Well, his team already had both scrolls and they were on their way to the tower when they ran into Team 7 and Orochimaru. "When I found him with the Anbu, he was pretty beaten up. He must have had at least 6 broken or bruised ribs, along with various other injuries," said Zabuza. Kurenai yelled, "And you left him in that condition?" "Hey, don't go yelling at me, it was his choice. So I dropped him off where his teammates were and left," replied Zabuza. Zabuza defended himself by saying, "He's right. It was Naruto's choice to continue, regardless of his injuries," Kakashi said. Kurenai questioned, So what are we going to do about Orochimaru? For now, we wait, Kurenai. Orochimaru is good at hiding. All we can do is wait for him to make his appearance, Jiraiya responded. Hiruzen said, agreed, and nodded. Once Naruto makes it to the tower, we will need to get the details from him. Jiraiya pulled out a notepad and pen and said, so, Kakashi, Kurenai, how's your relationship coming? Did you do the nasty yet? Jiraiya already knew the answer, of course. All he wanted was to see how they responded. Kakashi merely gazed at Jiraiya in a blank manner. Conversely, Kurenai rose from her chair, drew a kunai, and pushed Jiraiya out the window. Jiraiya, all I want to do is talk, she exclaimed. Put down the weapon and I'll consider it, he retorted. Kurenai followed Jiraiya as he ran as fast as he could. Kakashi, please go get your significant other before she kills my perverted student, Hiruzen demanded. Kakashi exclaimed, hi, and left the room, saying, to be young again, Hiruzen sighed. The Death Forest finding scrolls was proving to be a challenge for the different groups that traversed the Forest of Death. The 10th team was struggling to find a fighting team. In essence, they were waiting for a weaker team to engage in combat in order to determine which scroll they required. That's what Shikamaru proposed, anyway. Fighting a rested and unharmed team seemed too troublesome to him. As they made their way through the Forest of Death in search of their second scroll, Team 7 was also having little luck. They searched for 12 hours that day but were still unable to locate a team with a Heaven Scroll. Every other hour, Kiba and Sasuke quarreled over their next course of action. Their disagreements were predictable. Team 8 was making an effort to reach the tower, but it was, to put it mildly, challenging. Hinata was attempting to persuade Naruto to rest after an hour of travel. Hinata begged Naruto to take a short break. In order to avoid a genin team, Team 8 had just halted on a large tree branch. Naruto answered, Hinata, don't worry about me. I'm alright. No matter how much he talked, he was still in a lot of pain. He was breathing heavily and perspiring a lot, so you could tell. As Hinata reprimanded him, Naruto, you're not fine. You look like you're about to pass out. Naruto sensed something coming just as he was about to object. Just before Naruto was hit by a huge blast of air, he hurriedly pushed Shino and Hinata away. The enormous blast of air had struck Naruto squarely in the face. When the wind had subsided, he crashed into a tree and lost consciousness. Naruto! Exclaimed Hinata. You're slipping, Zaku, you only got one of them, a man's voice said. Zaku snapped back, shut up Dosu. That blonde kid pushed them out of the way before it hit. A woman's voice said, well, at least we only have 2 left to deal with then. Yes, but the boy is the priority, acknowledged Dosu. Yeah, but he's out for the count. We can deal with him later, replied Zaku. Sensei said we should not underestimate the boy, the woman's voice said. Shut up Kin. We know that already, Zaku said. At last, the sound genin emerged from the trees and appeared to the leaf genin that was recuperating. While Shino assumed his own taijutsu stance, Hinata assumed a soft fist stance. Both of them were ready to battle the sound genin. Well, I guess we can play with these 2 before we kill the other one, Kin replied. Well, you 2 can have fun then. I'll just watch for now, said Dosu. Kin threw Senbon at Hinata as he leapt at her. Hinata could see and avoid the projectiles with ease. Soon after, Kin and Hinata were both within range of taijutsu. In an attempt to end the fight quickly, the 2 began by kicking and jabbing each other, but soon they were fighting. In reality, Hinata and Kin were unable to hit each other. As their battle grew more intense, they accelerated their pace. Hinata was trying to avoid getting struck by the Senbons, while Kin was jabbing with Senbon needles between her knuckles. Zaku and Shino were keeping their distance from each other. Zaku would hurl enormous puffs of air at Shino. Shino would try to avoid it and keep as far away from him as he could. About 30% of Shino's bugs were still alive. He was trying to figure out how he could use them most effectively in this battle. Dosu said, well, this is entertaining, while observing the 4 individuals engaged in combat. He saw that the 2 fights were fairly evenly spaced. Naruto had a little red chakra dripping from him, but no one was looking at him. Even though he was still unconscious, something was going on. The battle had been going on for a few minutes. Due to their prior battle, Hinata and Shino were growing tired very quickly. As they battled, Shino and Hinata were being pressed harder and harder by Zaku and Kin. Inside the head of Naruto, the fox and Naruto had been debating what to do. Given how many of his bones were broken, Naruto's body was in no real condition to fight. Naruto was adamant that the fox heal him so that he could assist in the battle. Heal me already, damn it. I have to help them, you fuzzy bastard, Naruto screamed. Your body can only take so much of my chakra at a time, child. Even I do not really know the limits of what your body can handle, replied the fox. Like I care. Hinata. Chan needs my help. You said you would help me. Well, do something. Yes, I did say that now, didn't I? Very well, I'll heal your injuries, but how about I get to deal with these whelps? For a moment, Naruto stood contemplating that. Why not? The fox had aided him. Fine, just don't go destroying the villages, got it? The enormous fox grinned. It had been years since he had gone out. Very well, you've got yourself a deal, boy. With Hinata and Shino, Dosu had just entered the conflict between Shino and Zaku. Dosu attempted to strike Shino, but Shino ducked. Shino suddenly clutched his ears. Something had hit him even though the punch had missed. When Zaku realized Dosu had everything under control, he chose to use his wind attack to broadside Hinata. Although Hinata was able to dodge the majority of the attack while using her Byakugan, it still struck a portion of her right side. When a huge killer intent filled the air, everyone stopped. They all turned to look at the source. They turned to face Naruto, who was now upright. He was surrounded by a spiraling red demonic chakra. Though Hinata knew it wasn't her Naruto at the moment, she still glanced at him. Something else was involved. Naruto stood there with the demonic chakra and the killer intent rolling off him. The only people who knew anything about what was happening were Hinata and Shino. Zaku and Dosu made the decision to strike first. Zaku yelled, "Die," and raised both of his hands. He shot Naruto a much more potent burst of air. But as the air rushed down on him, Naruto remained motionless. Before it hit, he simply smirked as he stood there. Kin exclaimed, "I think you got him, Zaku." From the place where the rubble was still settling came a devilish laughter. There was a devilish laughter, and everyone froze. It sounded old and malevolent. Sorry to disappoint, but that won't hurt me. I must say it feels good to be out again, even if it is only for a short while. As the figure became apparent, the Sound Genin looked on in horror. He had not been scratched. A strange crimson force encircled him. Naruto abruptly vanished from view. The Sound Genin frantically searched for Naruto. The question Naruto posed behind Zaku was, "Were you the one that hurt the young girl?" Naturally, Naruto already knew. His only goal was to find out if the boy had the audacity to tell a falsehood. As Zaku answered the question, he whirled around and let out another blast of destructive air. Damn right I did. Zaku's neck was suddenly encircled by a hand while he was still in midair. He tightened his hold on Zaku's neck and said in a humorous tone, "That's all I needed to know." Naruto abruptly jerked his hand away from Zaku's neck. The sound of Genin's neck breaking was accompanied by a sickening snap. Zaku's lifeless body was flung against a tree by Naruto. As he slammed into it and hit the forest floor, you could hear his bones snapping. As Dosu and Kin watched Zaku die, they merely stared in horror. Their fear kept them rooted to their spot, preventing them from running as they wanted to. When Naruto's eyes met theirs, they both recoiled. Naruto sensed something behind him just as he was ready to attack the last of the Sound Ninja. Hinata commanded, "Give me my Naruto-kun back." She sounded as though she was crying because of her gentle tone. Naruto spoke without looking back. "So you knew it wasn't Naruto, did you? Well, I can see why the child likes you." Naruto's eyes returned to their original blue hue as the energy surrounding him subsided. Naruto remained motionless until two arms encircled his waist. It took him a few blinks to realize what was happening. Naruto turned to face Hinata after releasing her hold. With innocent curiosity, Naruto inquired, "Something wrong, Hinata, Chan? I thought I lost you. I thought that thing had taken over. Did she just call me a thing?" Naruto paid no attention to the fox at all. "Oh, that. Well, Naruto, I'm curious as to what has just occurred," said Shino. Naruto questioned, "What about the sound guys?" His attempt to shift the topic appeared to be successful. Shino answered, "As soon as you returned to normal, they ran away." As though he were going to vanish, Naruto glanced at Hinata, who was still clinging to him. "Hinata. Chan, are you ready to go?" Hinata merely gave a nod. With a smile, Naruto picked her up in bridal fashion. "N. Naruto-kun," exclaimed Hinata, her cheeks flushed. "What?" Naruto asked with a broad, silly smile. Hinata remarked, "Naruto-kun, I'm fine. Put me down." With a broad grin on his face, Naruto said, "I reject your request. Let's go, Shino." Shino and Naruto returned to the forest. Hinata continued to object to Naruto carrying her. Hinata curled up in Naruto's arms as they leapt through the trees. Shino inquired, "Naruto, what happened back there?" Naruto answered, "I made a deal with the fox, I see." "Aren't you going to ask what kind of deal?" No, everything turned out fine. I don't see the need to pry. There was silence for the remainder of the trip to the tower in the middle of the Death Forest. They encountered a few teams, but they simply avoided them and continued on their way. Naturally, Hinata didn't mind at all during the whole time Naruto carried her. A few hours after meeting the Sound Genin, they reached the tower. Just as the team was ready to enter the tower, two Anbu appeared, and Naruto set Hinata down. The Anbu wearing the hawk mask inquired, "Naruto Uzumaki, do you have both scrolls?" "Yes, have them both," he answered himself. "Very good, hand them to your teammates. We are to escort you to the Hokage. He wishes to speak to you about the incident that happened yesterday." Naruto produced the Earth and Heaven scrolls and gave them to Hinata, saying, "I figured as much." Naruto turned to the Anbu and said, "Sorry guys. I'll be back later." Hinata and Shino were standing at the door when Naruto and the Anbu vanished in a whirl of leaves, saying, "Well, let's go, I guess." Kurenai Yuhi was waiting for Hinata and Shino when they entered the tower. "Where's Naruto?" inquired Kurenai. "Two Anbu took him to see the Hokage," Shino said. Kurenai let out a sigh. "I thought they could have at least waited till you came into the building." Hinata questioned, "Is there something wrong with Naruto-kun?" "No, nothing's wrong with him. It just has to do with something that happened in the forest." Shino inquired, "Can you elaborate?" "Sorry, I can't, Shino. It's not something I can openly talk about." "I see. You two should head to the medic station down the hall. Naruto will join you in an hour or so after he's done with the Hokage." After giving the scrolls to Kurenai, Hinata and Shino went down the hall to the medical station. Shino and Hinata briefly visited the medical station to have a variety of wounds treated. They headed to the temporary cafeteria that had been prepared for this occasion. Alongside Naruto, Jiraiya, Hiruzen, Kakashi, Zabuza, and Naruto entered a room. "What was so important that I couldn't even enter the tower with Shino and Hinata?" "Chan," replied Naruto. The fact that they couldn't wait another minute clearly annoyed Naruto. "Well, I think they should have waited a little longer to collect you, but we can't be picky right now, Naruto," Hiruzen said. Naruto uttered the words, "I suppose seeing as Pervy Sage's boy, hungry teammate is here," with amusement. "Hungry, boy?" Jiraiya inquired. "Yeah, there are a lot of ways to attack someone, but trying to give them a hickey is just plain creepy. Did he chase after small boys back in the day, Pervy Sage?" I wouldn't know, and if I did I would have wiped my own mind," replied Jiraiya. "Now straight to the point. Was it really Orochimaru, and did he say what he was trying to do?" Hiruzen inquired. "Yes, it was the creepy snake guy, and no, he didn't say anything about what he was trying to do. But he was targeting Sasuke," said Naruto. Kakashi questioned, "What do you mean? How do you know he was after Sasuke?" "Well, he said something like, 'You have kept me from my prey,' and the only thing I can think of was that he was targeting Sasuke for some reason or another," replied Naruto. Hiruzen said, "I see this as most disturbing. You mean Orochimaru turning out to be a pedophile?" "I have to agree," Naruto said. Jiraiya gave Naruto a head slap. "That's not what he meant, Naruto, and you know it." Yeah, I know. I can have my fun, can't I?" Naruto scratched his head in response. Jiraiya reprimanded, "This is not the time for you to do your acting stupid bit. Sometimes you can be no fun, Pervy Sage. Anyhow, that's all I know, but I did get to use a new jutsu on him," Naruto proudly replied. "Which one?" inquired Jiraiya. Naruto was grinning broadly. "Sorry, Pervy Sage, you've never seen this one, but maybe in the finals," he said. With a sigh, Jiraiya took a seat at the room's desk. He didn't want to deal with this, so he hoped his old teammate would simply disappear. Given that both Zabuza and Kakashi wielded swords, Naruto was discussing them with them. Jiraiya reflected sadly, "I wish at least one of his parents were still alive, because the child is becoming more and more like his old man." Before it was time for Naruto to return to the tower, they continued their conversation. Hiruzen, Kakashi, and Jiraiya would be departing for the tower with Naruto in a few days, since the Hokage would have to go there. Impatiently, Naruto said, "Can we go now?" Yeah, we can leave now. It's not like your girlfriend won't be there when we get to the tower," Jiraiya replied bluntly. The four of them left the room after Naruto gave a furious grunt. "Well, at least things won't be dull around here for a while," Zabuza replied. Then he, too, vanished from the space. With Shino and Hinata had just finished eating from the temporary cafeteria. They were just sitting there drinking tea and discussing what had happened over the last 2 days. Both of them pondered what the Hokage wished to discuss with Naruto. Hinata inquired, "Do you think Naruto-kun will be back soon?" Shino retorted, "Don't worry, he'll be back soon," while sipping his tea. They sipped their tea in silence until Hinata mentioned something else. Hinata inquired, "Do you think everyone else is alright? You mean teams 7 and 10? I'm sure they will arrive sooner or later to the tower. Shikamaru may be lazy, but he isn't stupid. Team 7 should be just fine as well," replied Shino. After finishing their tea, the two Team 8 members went to their designated living quarters to wait for this section of the tests to conclude. They proceeded down the hallway until they came to the designated room. Naruto, Kakashi, Hiruzen, and Jiraiya were seated at the table in the middle of the room, conversing, when they opened the door. Naruto.kun. "Hey Hinata. Chan, what's..." Kakashi and Jiraiya whistled, making the two extremely uncomfortable, and Hinata tackled Naruto before he could finish. Sitting on the ground beside Naruto, who was supporting himself, was Hinata, who was flushed. Hiruzen rose from the seat he was occupying. "Well Naruto, the three of us will take our leave now. Kurenai will probably be coming by sometime soon to check up on you three. Naruto, please don't cause too much trouble while you're waiting the next 3 days." Telling him not to play a practical joke to kill time, Naruto couldn't contain his laughter. There would be no way to complete that task. Naruto would make an effort, but he wasn't sure he could wait another 3 days to pull the pranks. Since it was about 3 in the afternoon, Team 8 was left alone in the room and would not be sleeping just yet. According to Naruto, "What's wrong Hinata? Chan?" Hinata appeared to be bothered by something, which piqued his interest. As she put it, "I wish you would stop scaring me all the time." Innocently, "I don't know what you mean," he said. "You went off to fight that weird guy by yourself. Then the fox takes a joyride with your body. I was scared Naruto. Twice within 2 days I thought you were gone." Naruto encircled her with his arms and drew her in. "I'm sorry, Hinata. I really didn't mean to scare you or anything," Naruto said. Apparently it had upset her, even though he didn't think it had. Kurenai entered the room a few hours later to see how her team was doing. Kurenai inquired, "How are you all doing?" Hinata was sleeping, sitting up against Naruto, when she noticed Shino and Naruto conversing. "We're fine, a little bored but fine," Naruto answered. "So you're all doing fine? No broken bones or anything like that?" she inquired. To which Naruto replied, "Nope, I'm all healed up and Hinata-chan is doing just fine. I'm fine as well, though, when this is over, I will need to receive a new colony," Shino said. Kurenai grinned, closed the door, and took a seat with her group. They talked about what transpired in the Forest of Death for the next few hours. Naturally, they omitted some of the events involving the Sound Genin. No new teams had yet reached the tower as night had fallen. Hinata was sound asleep next to Naruto, who was seated on a bed. Shutting his eyes, Naruto went to talk to the fox. Inside the head of Naruto the fox, with a large, menacing smile on his enormous face, materialized before Naruto. When the fox said, "I had so much fun killing that kid." Naruto said, "What do you want fuzzball?" "Nothing boy, I just wanted to say I rather enjoyed my short-lived freedom, that's all." "I see. Well I don't plan on letting you do that too often just so you know. I just had no time to argue with you and gave you a chance." "This I know, but did she have to call me a thing?" All of Naruto's insulting remarks about the fox, including calling him a thing, were what infuriated him, and he was only able to laugh at him. "Stop your laughing boy, if it wasn't for me you would have died in that forest." Naruto laughed again and said, "Well, that was funny. I'll tell Hinata-chan not to call you a thing anymore." Since Naruto was thinking about this, he was unharmed when the Kyuubi struck him with his tail and sent him flying. Naruto said, "Touchy, aren't we?" as he rose from the floor. "It seems your little vixen is getting friendly in her sleep again." Out of Naruto's head again as he regained consciousness, Naruto blinked multiple times. He discovered Hinata's arms encircling him and her head resting on his chest. Naruto thought, "Well, I guess this means no late night pranks tonight." Naruto sighed. There wasn't much more he could do without sleeping. Using his free arm, Naruto snatched up the covers and flung them over Hinata and himself. He glanced quickly at the door and saw that it was locked. That must have been done earlier by Shino. After letting out another sigh, Naruto closed his eyes. This was the best way the day could have ended. Naruto and Hinata had an amazing few days. Just to talk or have a makeout session, they would sneak around. They would look for a quiet spot in the tower because staying in their designated room was simply too dull. Shino knew why they were acting in this way, so he didn't bother them. As usual, he kept to himself, but whenever Naruto and Hinata weren't present and someone came looking for them, he found himself filling in for them. Sitting in a rather underutilized section of the tower were Naruto and Hinata. As they conversed, Hinata was seated in Naruto's lap. So Hinata, you told me you have a sister. Do you two get along? Naruto inquired. Well, if this was a month ago, I would have said no, but recently, since we came back from our mission to the Wave Country, she's been more open. She occasionally asks me to do her hair or wants to go gardening with me, Hinata responded. Well, that's good. I wish I had a sibling or some type of family. Don't you ever wonder who your parents were? Naruto.kun. When I was younger, I wondered all the time, sure, but it just hasn't been that important in the past few years. I'd like to know someday, but it really won't change anything when I find out. I wouldn't be so sure, muttered the giant fox. Naruto disregarded the fox's remarks, assuming he was merely attempting to annoy him once more. I wish the fox would stop bugging me, it always ruins the mood, Naruto murmured. You talk with it? Naruto's expression changed to one of, oh crap, and his eyes widened. Well, sort of. What do you mean sort of? Behind them, Naruto and Hinata noticed a small fox. The fox had a single tail and was reddish in color. It's so cute! Exclaimed Hinata joyfully. She snatched the fox up and gave it a quick hug. The fox was being hugged and squeezed by Hinata as if it were a plush toy. Naruto simply gazed at the fox, unsure of what was happening. Hinata, you know the fox that you're hugging to death is the Kyuubi, right? Hinata turned to face the fox she had just been giving a life-saving embrace to. Really? But he looks so cute. How can something like this hurt anyone? The fox complained a little. No one takes a demon fox seriously anymore. How exactly are you able to come out on your own? Replied Naruto. The fox pouted because he couldn't really cause any trouble. You changed more than just scenery when you altered my prison. Sadly, I can't do much with this body, nor can I do this that often. This body only has enough energy to set someone's pants on fire, then it would dissipate, he said. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I said I could in so many words while you were doing that mission in the Wave Country. Naruto was angry that the fox was interfering with his Hinata-chan time, so he asked, so why exactly are you coming out now of all times? Well, you're lovey. Devay's stuff was honestly getting on my nerves, so I decided to. Hinata began to rub the fox's ears, causing him to purr. Hinata burst out laughing at the fox. The fox apparently enjoyed having his ears rubbed. Naruto.kun, what's his name? I know people call him the Kyuubi, but he must have an actual name, right? Don't ask me. The fox never tells me much. My actual name would be Takeshi. Now why exactly aren't you afraid of me, little girl? I don't think I could ever be afraid of something this cute looking. Takeshi let out a sigh. She was correct, no one would be impressed by his appearance. Since he was essentially a chibi version of himself and had only one tail like a typical fox, Naruto had to acknowledge that he wasn't particularly menacing. Hinata-chan is right, you know. I never thought you were that bad even in your normal form, but this form is just saying, please pet me. I think it's about as threatening as a box full of kittens. Takeshi bit down on Naruto's hand as he leapt at him. Takeshi grabbed Naruto's hand by the teeth as he ran around. Their antics and Naruto's constant yelling of, get it off, caused Hinata to burst out laughing. When Hinata approached and seized Takeshi, the latter released Naruto's hand. Perhaps because he desired another ear rub, Hinata returned her attention to the tiny chibi representation of the nine-tailed fox. Kid, this one's a keeper, better not let her go. The fox's words caused Hinata and Naruto to flush. One of Naruto's clones vanished, alerting him to the fact that someone was approaching their location, but since it was Shino, there was no need for concern. Shino's coming, so you might want to disappear for now, fuzzball. With a sigh, Takeshi vanished in a burst of red chakra. Naruto and Hinata were seated next to each other when Shino entered the room a few minutes later. The second part of the exams has officially finished. They're waiting for us in the main room, said Shino. At last. Let's go, Hinata-chan, exclaimed Naruto with joy. Hinata nodded, grinning. The three of them proceeded down the corridors until they reached the spacious room where every team was waiting. 15 other individuals were standing in the middle of the space. In addition to their own team, Sabaku, and Kabuto's team, there were teams 7, 9, and 10. Only those teams appeared to have advanced past the second round. As the Hokage started talking, Team 8 moved behind everyone. Congratulations on completing the second part of the chunin exams. Normally, there aren't this many teams that finish the second round. Therefore we shall be holding preliminary fights to cut the number of passing to the third stage effectively in half, Hiruzen said. Naruto said, wait, so we have to fight or something? Hiruzen turned to face Hayate, who coughed a little and then raised his voice. You will each be randomly, chosen to fight. Teams, will be effectively dissolved at this point. The question on everyone's minds was, did they drag him out of the hospital for this? We will begin in 10 minutes, so prepare yourselves. The 9 rookies ended up discussing their experiences in the Forest of Death with one another. Naruto inquired, so Shikamaru, how was the forest? It was troublesome to say the least, Shikamaru answered. After giggling, Naruto went to check on the progress of Team 7. Naruto observed that Sakura and Sasuke were standing somewhat closer than usual. Naruto approached Kiba and inquired about the reason behind that. Then Naruto whispered, "Yo, Kiba, something happened with Sasuke and Sakura out there?" Kiba started out by outlining the specifics of what had occurred. Rewind, some sand genin had just ambushed Team 7. Sasuke was engaged in combat with the squad's apparent leader. Kiba was engaged in combat with a rather slender genin. Given that he had been struck by the unexpected wind jutsu that had first caused them to part ways, he wasn't doing too well. Right now, Sasuke and the unidentified sand shinobi were engaged in a taijutsu battle. He kept half of his focus on Sakura, who was currently holding her own. In front of him, Sasuke hurled 2 kunai at the opposing shinobi. The 4 kunai collided in midair as the anonymous sand shinobi followed suit. Before the kunai could even reach the ground, Sasuke and his opponent rushed one another once more. As he ran at his opponent, Sasuke glanced at Sakura. He witnessed Sakura collide with the tree and collapse to the ground. Sasuke tightened his jaw. He wanted to save her for some reason. It wasn't even because he needed to finish the current section of the test. In the brief time they had been assigned to Team 7, he had actually come to like her despite the fact that she was annoying and constantly hovered over him, much like a moth does to flame. He wanted to know what the feeling was, but he wasn't entirely sure. His eyes started to change without Sasuke's knowledge. Unlike before, Sasuke was able to read and counter the ninja's moves with ease when they clashed again. After exchanging a few blows with his opponent, Sasuke dispatched another kunai. He swiftly slashed his opponent's throat with his kunai. To put an end to it, Sasuke swiftly turned to face the ninja as they approached Sakura slowly. Through hand seals, Sasuke flew. Kaden. Ryuka no Jutsu. The ninja was reduced to little more than ash as the flames spread out and consumed him. Suga. Kiba was just finishing up his opponent when Sasuke turned to see him collide with a tree. Now embedded in the tree, the sand ninja slowly dropped to the ground. After getting better, Kiba approached Sasuke to check on Sakura. Kiba was about to remark that one of the genin was completely gone when he caught sight of Sasuke's eyes. "Hey, Sasuke, your eyes, they're red now, with comma marks." Finish the flashback. So he finally activated his Sharingan, Hey, Kiba, how about we play some pranks on those two after all this? Oh, I'm definitely getting involved in this. With a smile, Naruto approached Sasuke. Until he spoke, he was going to genuinely enjoy pestering him about this. "So, Sasuke, I hear you got your Sharingan. What exactly triggered it?" "How should I know, moron?" Naruto grinned mischievously and said, Right, I heard all about the fight. Do you want to hear what I think?" Sasuke grabbed Naruto by the collar of his shirt and walked past him. Sasuke said, "Don't you dare say anything," after they had sufficiently distanced themselves from the group. "Where's the fun in that, Teme?" Sasuke complained and turned to leave, knowing that he would not succeed with Naruto and that he would have to decide whether to tell or not, regardless of his desires. When the allotted 10 minutes had finally passed, Hayate started discussing the rulesa or lack thereof. "There really are no rules, but killing is frowned upon. Weapons of all kinds are allowed. If I deem the fight is, over, you will stop, or I will stop you." Hayate was about to say something else when Jiraiya entered the room. "Hey, pervy sage, did you come to watch the fighting?" Jiraiya proudly exclaimed, "Exactly, I wouldn't miss my student kicking some ass." Kurenai was glaring daggers at him up in the stands. In case she felt the impulse to try to jam a kunai in him, Kakashi put an arm around her waist and drew her in close. When Kurenai saw that Kakashi had put his arm around her, she flushed. "As I was about to say, the first match will begin. Is there anyone who wishes to quit now?" Kabuto held up a hand. "Sorry, but I can't continue." Everyone simply accepted it while giving him strange looks. Kabuto left the room and proceeded down the hallway until someone stopped him. "So, Kabuto, you're not going to play with the children? I have more pressing duties to complete for you, Orochimaru, Sama." "Very well. Be sure to complete them, as you wish." As Orochimaru vanished into the wall, Kabuto was left to complete his tasks. At the moment, the genin were ascending the stairs to the waiting Junin sensei. The final two to ascend the stairs were Naruto and Hinata. Hinata went first, followed by Naruto. It felt like forever as they ascended the stairs, and he kept his eyes fixed on her butt the whole time. My Hinata. Chan has a really nice ass, I must say. You have to touch. He thought this over and over. When Naruto heard the fox laughing in his mind, he decided not to do so. It seems that Takeshi thought Naruto's realization was very funny. When I discovered those dumb books in Pervy Sage's room, I knew I shouldn't have read them. Of course, once you read that kind of material, it's stuck in your head for life and you start thinking in a more perverted fashion, complained Naruto. Sitting up in the stands, Hiruzen and Jiraiya watched to see how this would play out. They were hoping these games would be fun. On the electronic board, the first names appeared. Yoroi Akato faced off against Shino Aburame. Hayate declared, "Would Shino Aburame and Yoroi Akato please step into the arena?" Yoroi leapt from the balcony's ledge and entered the arena as Shino descended the stairs. Waiting for the signal to start the match, the two stood apart. Yoroi was a big, burly man with a cloth over the rest of his face and small dark glasses. In every aspect, Shino appeared physically inferior to the man. For the young bug user, however, that meant nothing. Let the match between Shino Aburame and Yoroi Akato begin. With his hand extended, Yoroi rushed Shino and swiped at him. Shino let out a small grunt as he felt some of his chakra being drawn out. Shino leapt as far back as he was able. Shino said, "Interesting ability. Too bad you don't seem fast enough to use it properly," as he continued to spin around to avoid the glowing hand of the man. "Stop avoiding your inevitable defeat," screamed Yoroi. Yoroi's remark, "Or are you scared of something?" was ignored. To offend an Aburame, much more would be required. Shino had been dispersing his bugs throughout the arena gradually the entire time. Yoroi jumped back when Shino abruptly pulled out a kunai and swiped at him. "As I said, you're too slow to use your own moves effectively." Shino only intended to enrage the man. Yoroi started charging again, a little quicker this time, suggesting that it was working. Even so, he failed to attempt to reach his opponent. Yoroi was knocked to the ground when an arm made of bugs suddenly appeared out of nowhere and crashed into him. In the air, the bug arm dissipated. Many of Shino's bugs had been deposited on Yoroi without his knowledge. What the hell was with that? I hate bugs. Shino remained motionless as Yoroi charged once more. Shino swiftly withdrew a kunai and stabbed it through Yoroi's palm just as his hand was a few feet away from his opponent. He retreated and withdrew the kunai from Yoroi, who let out a painful scream. Both Naruto and Hinata shook their heads up in the stands. It was inappropriate to say that in front of Shino. "Do not insult the insects. Make me bug lover." Yoroi was encircled by a swarm of insects that emerged from Shino's clothing as well as all the ones he had scattered across the arena. "You see, Yoroi, you had lost from the very beginning, as you need to get close to attack your opponent and siphon their chakra." "I do not," Shino said in a voice that was unnervingly steady. When Shino gave the bugs a signal, they completely engulfed Yoroi. "Shino, that's enough. Recall your beetles. You're the winner of this match," Hayate exclaimed. Yoroi shivered as Shino remembered his bugs. In fact, the beetles had begun eating him, and he was bleeding all over. The medical staff hurried out of the room to treat him after placing him on a stretcher. Shino calmly made his way back up to the stands to join his team after all of his beetles had retreated back into his coat. Naruto gave him a hearty pat on the back and exclaimed, "Awesome Shino. You really got him good at him." Hinata gave Naruto's statement a nod of agreement. "Yes, excellent work Shino," Kurenai had said. After clearing his throat, the proctor announced the next group of names to appear on the board. "Next match will be Rock Lee vs Choji Akamichi. Would you two make your way into the arena?" Choji whimpered, "I changed my mind Asuma. Sensei, I don't want to fight." Shikamaru glanced down at Lee, who was in the arena already anticipating Choji's arrival. After jumping off the ledge, he approached Lee and spoke softly into his ear. "But I don't want to call Choji fat," Lee said again. Choji apparently only heard his name and the word fat out of the entire statement. When Choji turned to face Lee, his eyes seemed to be burning with passion. This served as Shikamaru's signal to move quickly. Choji leapt from the precipice. "You called me fat, didn't you?" Choji began to attack Lee just as he was about to defend himself. Hayate let out a sigh. At this point, it didn't really matter that he never even said for them to begin. Choji's arm suddenly grew 10 times larger than usual, and he swung at his opponent with great force. Lee effortlessly flipped his back over the enormous arm. Lee leapt to attack Choji, but the enormous arm stopped him. Lee thought, it can move far faster than I expected. Choji's other arm swelled up and swung at Lee once more, but Lee kicked it away as if it weren't there. As they waited for one of them to approach, the two stood far apart. It was Choji who initiated contact. With both of his oversized arms, he charged Lee. He swung at Lee, who easily sidestepped it, but Choji struck Lee in midair with the other arm. Lee appeared to be hurt by the blow, but he recovered quickly and was standing a few yards away from Choji. Gosh, he's so quick, Choji thought. Choji's arms returned to their typical proportions. Choji's body suddenly grew until it resembled a gigantic meatball. He started to spin as his head, arms, and legs pulled inward. Choji, now in the shape of a meatball tank, charged at Lee. Choji went by after Lee leapt aside. Lee observed that Choji's current condition was seriously hindering his ability to turn around. When Choji eventually turned around, he pounded Lee once more. Lee stood there this time, waiting for Choji to approach. Lee gave Choji a huge kick that sent him flying into the wall and knocking him out just as he was about to crush his opponent. The fact that Choji's move was so easily defeated caused the eyes of Choji's team to widen. Hayate went to see how Choji was doing. He said, "Winner, rock Lee." Guy exclaimed, "Great job, Lee, thank you Guy, sensei." As the medic ninja emerged to tend to Choji, Lee leapt back up to the balcony. As soon as Choji was removed from the arena, two new names appeared on the board. Masumi Tsurugi and Konkuro were the two names that had surfaced. "Konkuro and Masumi Tsurugi, please make your way to the arena floor," Hayate said. Konkuro only reached Masumi's shoulders, demonstrating how tall he was. Unlike his partner, Masumi lacked a lot of muscle. He wore glasses and had brown hair. Like his partner, he was also wearing a cloth over his face. "It's my turn at last," Konkuro thought. The two leapt into the arena from the balcony ledges. As they waited for the game to begin, the two stood apart. "If I were you," Masumi said, "I'd give up now." Konkuro unfastened the bulky object on his back. Konkuro retorted, "I'll say the same to you, for eyes." The third match of the preliminaries began. Masumi tried to punch Konkuro as he rushed him. Masumi's fist was easily blocked by Konkuro, but all of a sudden, his entire arm changed into something akin to jello and encircled Konkuro's arm. What the? The remainder of Masumi wrapped around the remainder of Konkuro's body in the same manner as his arm. Konkuro made an unsuccessful attempt to break free. "You see, I can dislocate every bone in my body, and with my excellent chakra control, I can manipulate my body perfectly in this state." Konkuro teasingly said, "That's a nice trick, is that it? You're in no position to talk. I could easily break any bone in your body. For instance, I could break your neck." "Well, get it over with already, I don't have all day." Masumi broke the neck of Konkuro. Everyone was appalled, with the exception of Konkuro's team and a few others. That is, until Konkuro's face started to fall apart. The head turned and gave Masumi a direct look. "My turn. This is a puppet. He is a master of puppetry." Masumi let out a mental scream. Unexpectedly, arms sprang from what was believed to be Konkuro's body, encircling Masumi and starting to suck his life out. Later in the battle, Konkuro emerged from the big bundle that had been dropped. Masumi cried out, "I give up," as the puppet squeezed his life from him. "How boring. You would be so much more flexible if you let me finish breaking all the bones in your body." Hayate made the decision to end the game. Winner, Konkuro. Masumi was dropped to the ground by the puppet. Masumi was swiftly loaded onto a stretcher and taken to the medical ward by the emergency medical personnel. The board then displayed the following names: Ino Yamanaka and Naruto Uzumaki. Both Naruto and Ino came down from the balcony and stood where they were. As they awaited the signal to start the match, they stood apart. The older shinobi all appeared incredibly anxious about this battle, however, none of the younger genin knew why. "Using my Shintenshin no Jutsu is the only way I can win, but my father advised me not to use it on Naruto." But he never explained why, Ino thought. Sakura had informed Ino earlier today about Naruto's fighting prowess. However, Naruto was unaware of the Yamanaka clan's area of expertise. When the proctor proclaimed the battle to be over, he was attempting to recall what Jiraiya had told him. Ino considered defeating Naruto as a one-time opportunity. In an attempt to remove her jutsu quickly, she hurried Naruto. As Ino hurried in and made a few hand gestures, Naruto watched. Since Naruto had no idea what she was attempting to do, he simply assumed a ready stance in order to defend himself effectively. She yelled, "Mind transfer jutsu." It was too late by the time Naruto realized what she was doing. With the exception of Team 8, Every genin believed that Ino had just won. Even the brilliant Shikamaru believed this. The Leaf Junin in the room believed that this match should never have happened and that the current situation was awful. Inside the head of Naruto there was a huge tree in the seemingly endless field of green grass where Ino appeared. This was something she had never seen, read, or heard of before. Nothing like this had ever been mentioned in all the books she had to read to learn Yamanaka Jutsu. She glanced back at the enormous tree in front of her, but she saw nothing else. In the hopes of discovering something she had read about in the Yamanaka books, she approached the tree. She sensed that someone was observing her as she approached the tree. It was a strange sensation. Children should not be allowed to enter someone's mind without permission. Did you know if you die in this boy's mind, you will not return to your own body? Ino frantically searched the area for the source of the voice. However, the voice sounded as though it were simultaneously coming from everywhere. Ino was aware that this was not Naruto. Something else was involved, something far bigger than himself. I should kill you right now for entering the little knucklehead's mind without permission, but he would get rather upset with me if I did. She cried out, "What are you?" Officially, Ino was terrified. This was something she had never encountered before. Ino was knocked to the ground and the ground shook as a huge figure suddenly landed behind her. "I am the creature that once almost destroyed your village." Ino's eyes widened, and she started to frantically back up while yelling. The fox merely chuckled uncontrollably as he approached her. She was able to control herself enough to stop the jutsu. After Ino left, Naruto emerged. Naruto screamed, "Why the hell did you keep me out, you son of a bitch?" Because she needed to be taught a lesson, that's why. She's lucky I didn't end her existence right there. You shouldn't have done anything at all and let her figure out there was nothing she could do to actually control me with that jutsu. And you should have not spaced out and let her use it on you. In a sense, it's your own fault for this occurrence. With a sigh, Naruto left his thoughts to check on Ino. Beyond Naruto's mental realm, Naruto, like Ino, came back to the present. After a few seconds of screaming, Ino collapsed to the ground, trembling as if she had just witnessed the devil himself. As the other genin wondered what had happened to Ino, Naruto cast a shamed glance at the ground. Ino was picked up by Asuma, who appeared beside her. Right now, she was not responding. "I'm sorry, Naruto. We should have never let this match proceed," Asuma replied. As he passed, Naruto remained silent and had a dejected look on his face, as if everything had come to an end. At last, Hayate made the decision to call the match. Winner: Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto ascended the stairs gradually until he reached the summit. He took a seat on a bench close to his teammates and simply gazed into space. Kurenai placed a hand on her shoulder and shook her head as Hinata approached to try to lift his spirits. Kurenai said, "Leave him be right now, Hinata." Hiruzen turned to face the still shivering Ino. The young girl wasn't prepared for that kind of situation. Hiruzen said, "Asuma, please go get Inoichi." Asuma let out a sigh. "If we would have just called the match before this had happened, we wouldn't need to. You know as well as I do the council is just going to use this against the boy." Hiruzen turned to face Naruto, who appeared to be quite depressed. "I'm afraid that is very possible." After taking Ino to the medical ward, Asuma went to get her father to check on the extent of the damage. The preliminary round's first 4 matches were over, and the next 4 were set to start. The remaining tests were temporarily put on hold after the battle between Naruto and Ino, if it could be called a fight, was over. Up on the balcony, Naruto remained seated in the same position, gazing at the ground. Without his team, the other genin just looked at him, wondering what he had done to Ino. Naruto was not going to tell them that he had nothing to do with that, even though that was the truth. The match couldn't have gone much worse, Naruto sighed. Hayate tried to get everyone's attention by coughing. Everyone turned their heads toward him, suggesting that the action was effective. The 5th match will begin now. Shikamaru Nara and Sakura Haruno, who were bored, were given 2 names. Both of them went down the stairs to the arena. Naruto needed this kind of diversion from his personal issues. To watch the match, he rose from the bench and approached the railing. "Are you okay now, Naruto-kun?" Hinata inquired quietly before speaking. "Not really, but I'll be fine I guess. It's Ino I'm more concerned about at the moment," he responded. "Will she be alright?" "Yeah. The fox only scared her, nothing more. I'm just wondering what she will think of me now." Hinata turned to face Naruto, who was gazing down at the impending match. She wanted to give him a hug in an attempt to cheer him up, but doing so would undoubtedly reveal their current relationship, which they have been trying to hide. Kurenai let out a sigh. They were certainly maintaining the appearance of not being a couple quite successfully. How disorganized, she thought. Naruto muttered, "Let the battle between the bookworm and the lazy genius begin." Just before Hayate was able to start the match, It was only loud enough for his teammates to hear him say it. Naruto's remark caused Kurenai to chuckle a little. Hinata laughed, but when Shino started to laugh a little, they both fell silent. They all looked at him as if something terrible had just occurred. When they heard Hayate start the match, they looked toward the arena. Hayate declared, "May the match between Shikamaru Nara and Sakura Haruno begin." Sakura and Shikamaru stood motionless, deliberating over their next move. Shikamaru gave a yawn. "Man, this is boring. Why did I have to fight a girl?" "What you say?" screamed Sakura. He whispered, "She's noisy, too." Sakura, who was aware of the Nara jutsu, threw a kunai at him. Simply sidestepping the kunai was Shikamaru's method. Sakura considered her options because he had ranged jutsu and she did not. Somehow, she was going to have to get close. Sakura reflected, "Well, standing here isn't going to help me." Sakura made multiple clones as she ran at Shikamaru. The only way to get close was to use the clones. One of the Sakura clones was the target of Shikamaru's shadow, but it wasn't the correct one. Before she got too close, he managed to do that twice more. Shikamaru barely dodged a blow. "She's quicker than I anticipated." Sakura's right hook ducked under Shikamaru. She leapt back a foot or so, made multiple clones, and launched another assault. Shikamaru pulled out a kunai just before Sakura punched him in the face, causing the kunai to fall from his grasp. Sakura was stuck in the ground several feet behind the kunai. Leaping back, Shikamaru cast his shadow over Sakura. With ease, she leapt out of the shadow's path. After a couple of seconds, she was immobile. "What? How?" she pondered. When she realized what had happened, her eyes widened. He used the kunai he had dropped earlier to cast a wider shadow. Shikamaru muttered, "Well, that was more of a workout than I thought it would be. So Sakura, do you concede, or do I have to knock you out or something?" Sakura let out a sigh. She was aware of her defeat. "I concede. So was the kunai something you planned?" "Yeah, although I wasn't too sure it was going to work." Winner of the fifth match, Shikamaru Nara. Sakura was able to move on her own strength once more after Shikamaru released his jutsu. After climbing the stairs, the two returned to their teams. On the way up, they didn't bother to speak. Sakura let out a sigh, feeling a little down about losing her match. Kakashi said, "Well, Sakura, that was pretty good," and put his small orange book he had been reading away. She said, "Thanks Kakashi. Sensei." "Yeah, not bad," muttered Sasuke. At what the Uchiha said, Sakura flushed. She remained silent in response. Since Kiba hadn't heard him, she assumed he would prefer to keep it that way. However, when Kakashi heard Sasuke, he looked at both of them. Perhaps Sasuke has finally overcome some of his problems. I have to admit that a few days prior to the exams, he was acting differently, Kakashi thought. Tenten and Sasuke Uchiha's names appeared on the electronic board. Hayate yelled, "Please head to the arena floor, Tenten and Sasuke Uchiha." Sasuke walked while Tenten leapt from the railing. Naruto interrupted Sasuke as he passed Team 8. Without even looking back, Naruto said, "We still need to have a match, so it's better not to lose just yet, Teme." Just as he was about to pass Naruto, Sasuke halted and spoke without even looking at him, "Of course, Dobi, but I don't plan on losing to you when our match comes up." Kurenai gave them both a look. They were smiling maniacally. To be honest, it scared her a little. If Naruto was as skilled as Jiraiya claimed, that particular match would undoubtedly be interesting to watch. The lessons that Jiraiya taught Naruto were never really disclosed by him. Following his brief conversation with Naruto, Sasuke proceeded to walk down to the arena. Now he was facing a smiling Tenten. He wondered what she was thinking at the moment. "So what are you so happy about?" "Well, I get to fight the famed Uchiha in a match and beat him. Why wouldn't I be happy?" she responded. Sasuke's eyes came to life. "Well, show me what you got." Let the sixth match begin. Tenten immediately leapt back and hurled several shuriken. Sasuke effortlessly blocked them after drawing a kunai. Sasuke would simply have to respond to what the girl threw at him because he knew nothing about her. This match wasn't going to last long, though, if she only threw objects at him. However, Sasuke was a little irritated by her sensei's and Rock Lee's cheering. Sasuke questioned, "Are those two always this noisy?" "Afraid so. Sometimes I wish they weren't so energetic. Now are you ready to fight?" "Sure, but I hope you can do more than throw stuff at me," he said. He was successful in making her very agitated. As she approached him, she threw shuriken at mass and charged him. Sasuke dodged or blocked them with ease. Tenten began slashing at him after drawing two kunai. Sasuke moved the kunai in and out of her stabs and slashes. When Sasuke finally struck back, he kicked her in the stomach, sending her flying a few yards back while dodging a slash to the face. As Tenten stood up again, she coughed. She couldn't even get close to him. With a sly smile, Tenten leapt to her feet and pulled out several of her scrolls. She hurled a hailstorm of sharpened steel at the Uchiha as weapons started to appear everywhere. Sasuke avoided the barrage of weaponry. When he saw the wire that was fastened to each weapon, he leapt away from them. The weapons were animated. Tenten appeared to be controlling the weapons with her chakra in the thin metal wire. Tenten asked with an ear-to-ear smile, "Now Sasuke, can you dodge all of this?" Sasuke grinned. He shrugged his shoulders and remarked, "Who knows?" Tenten shifted the weapons with her hands. Sasuke did nothing but stand there as the weapons all came crashing down on him. With a sly smile, Sasuke moved just in time to see all of the weapons hit where he had been standing. Through hand seals, Sasuke flew. Kaden. Dragon Fire Jutsu. Tenten's weapons and the wire that was fastened to them turned red hot as the stream of flames consumed them. Her hands began to burn from the wire. Tenten leapt back and swiftly untangled the wires. She briefly looked away from Sasuke, but that was too long. Behind Tenten, Sasuke emerged holding a kunai to the back of her neck and to her throat. She would be killed if she made any movement. "Well, it seems you lost," smirking, Sasuke remarked. Sasuke Uchiha won the 6th round, declared Hayate. Sasuke's performance in the match against Tenten was perfect. Naruto only believed that he was able to avoid everything because of his Sharingan. He would have at least suffered severe injuries if he hadn't had it. Tenten muttering in a melancholy voice, "I couldn't even touch him." She sighed and walked back up the stairs with her head hung low. A few feet behind her, Sasuke strolled with a bored look on his face. To watch the next game, he strolled back to the spot on the railing beside his team. Sasuke received congratulations for his match from his team. The next two names appeared on the board shortly after. Hinata Hyuga was up against Neji Hyuga, her cousin. Naruto turned to face Hinata, who was shaky a little. He had never asked about her own family before, but now he regrets not doing so. Naruto yelled, "Do your best, Hinata-chan," loud enough for her to hear. After halting her shaking and giving Naruto a nod, Hinata descended the stairs. Now she was going to try her hardest. As she got ready for Hayate to begin the fight, she assumed a soft fist position. Naruto cast a glance at Kurenai from the balcony. She was clearly not happy about this fight based on the look on her face. With that, Naruto returned his focus to the impending battle. The match had been started by Hayate. To protect herself from Neji's assaults, Hinata maintained her soft fist position. Neji, on the other hand, simply stood staring at her with his hands by his sides. Neji suddenly broke into a smile. Neji stated, "You can't win. You must already realize this," in a cool, collected manner. "In all our past sparring sessions you were never able to beat me. I doubt you have gained the ability to challenge me in this short time. Give up now before I'm forced to harm you in this match." In response, Hinata turned on her Byakugan. "I've worked very hard since I became a part of Team 8. I will not disappoint him." Neji's words were laced with venom. "You speak of that failure? Hey, once a failure, always a failure, just like you, my dear cousin." Neji finally dropped into a soft fist stance after activating his Byakugan. Naruto was holding on to the railing so tightly that his hands were leaving an impression on it. The taunts directed at Hinata were intolerable, but he wasn't offended because he had heard them before. Kurenai tried to soothe him by placing a hand on his shoulder. It appeared to have some effect. In a blur of movement, the two Hyuga charged at one another. Neji and Hinata started what appeared to be a complex dance, with Hinata deftly blocking his blows. Each blocked blow produced a burst of chakra that appeared capable of destroying internal organs. In this match of gentle fist users, Hinata appeared to be able to keep up with her cousin. Hinata avoided a blow from Neji by bending back 90 degrees. She immediately leapt back up and struck Neji squarely in the stomach. With a slight grunt, Hinata leapt away from him. "Even though her speed has increased, it is still insufficient," Neji pondered. "Is that it? If so, you have already lost this match." Hinata was flexing her hands as if they were malfunctioning. She noticed a few tiny dots on her arms when she lifted her sleeve after hearing her cousin's words. Neji was hitting her tenketsu points, causing burns on her chakra. All of the Junin on the balcony were taken aback by Neji's proficiency with the Byakugan. Few Hyuga clan members were able to see and hit those points accurately, and even fewer were able to hit them in that manner during combat. After giving Naruto a fleeting glance, Hinata returned to her soft fist stance. "I will not give up this time, Nisan, regardless of what you say." As the battle went on, Neji and Hinata resumed their intricate dance. Abruptly, they both hit each other simultaneously. Hinata coughed up some blood after a few seconds, but Neji appeared largely unaffected by her attack. After Hinata shook off his devastating blow, she attempted to counter, but Neji blocked it and struck her again in the chest with both palms, sending her flying backwards several feet. As Hinata slowly stood up once more, blood could be seen oozing from both sides of her mouth. She coughed up blood as she fell to her hands and knees. "You know you can't win," Neji said. "Give up already." Hinata stood up and used her jacket to wipe the blood from her mouth. Once again, Hinata assumed her gentle fist stance and declared, "I will not. Cough cough. Give up." Neji lunged at Hinata, and Naruto could only watch. Neji deflected Hinata's blow with ease and delivered another devastating blow to her chest with a gentle fist. Hinata was knocked back a few feet by the blow. All he said was, "Pathetic, it was already destined that I would win." Naruto was horrified to see how viciously Hinata was struck. He was holding the railing so tightly that the pressure was causing it to crack. In some way, Hinata was able to stand up again. "Pathetic? Nissan, take a good look at yourself and then tell me who's pathetic," she replied weakly. With an angry look on his face, Neji charged Hinata, both palms raised to strike. He would put a stop to it. Naruto watched Neji charge, and it seemed like everything was happening in slow motion. Naruto turned to face Hinata, who was not defending herself in any way. Shortly after speaking, she had fainted while standing. Naruto's gaze grew wide. With haste, he sealed his hand and vanished from the balcony. Neji was about to attack when Naruto suddenly materialized directly in front of Hinata. Both palm strikes were delivered to Naruto's chest. Despite the pain radiating through his chest, Naruto remained steadfast and did not even flinch away from the blow. Neji had been seized by Kakashi, Guy, and Hayate. However, if Naruto hadn't intervened, it would have been too late. Kurenai was yelling for the medics after examining Hinata. Hurrying out, they hurriedly carried Hinata into the medical ward. Her condition was critical. Neji was freed by the chunin, and Hayate declared the winner. Blood was dripping from Naruto's mouth as he stood motionless. Naruto abruptly unleashed so much murderous intent that even Gaara's demon became quiet. Jiraiya stopped Naruto from charging Neji after he had created a Rasengan. The jutsu that Naruto had performed left everyone in the room in awe. Naruto yelled, "Let me go, Jiraiya," as he attempted to use his Rasengan to impale Neji. Jiraiya would have preferred to let Naruto complete what he had planned, but that would have put him in a lot of trouble. "Kid, there is a time and place for all things, but this is neither the time nor the place." After calming down, Naruto let go of the Rasengan. Jiraiya quickly released Naruto. Naruto vanished in a whirlpool of leaves after saying, "Neji, if Hinata dies, I will kill you even before the finals take place." He would have pursued Kurenai and Hinata, but he was aware that they would not permit him to approach the medical ward. Jiraiya asked, "Well, kid, what kind of flowers should I bring?" "For what?" inquired Neji. "For your funeral," was his direct response. Jiraiya didn't hold out for a response, he simply left. Neji complained and walked back to the balcony to watch the next game. "How can a failure defeat a genius?" he muttered. However, Neji was currently speaking to himself in a way that made him appear rather foolish. His teammates gave him glares when he returned to the location with them. Kakashi gave the genin a look. Most of them, including Sasuke, had stunned expressions on their faces. Kakashi remarked, "I guess you're all curious about what that jutsu was." All of them simply turned to face Kakashi, expressing curiosity about what it was. Kakashi gave them a long look before continuing. "That jutsu you just saw would be the Rasengan. It was a jutsu that was created by the 4th Hokage. Jiraiya probably taught it to him while he was training Naruto." Jiraiya showed up next to Kakashi. "Yeah, I did teach it to him. He mastered it in about a week or so, if I remember correctly." "How could Naruto master something so complex in such a short amount of time?" asked Shikamaru. "He just did. I don't know how he caught on so fast, but he did. Even I couldn't do it that quickly. And just because Naruto is good at playing a fool doesn't mean he actually is one. Although, I have to admit, he's done a rather convincing job of it," replied Jiraiya. Sakura questioned, "But why did Naruto react like that? Let me ask you. Do you have a lot of friends and people that generally like you?" Sakura gave a nod. "Well, for Naruto, it's the exact opposite. He has few friends and most people hate him. I mean, most of the people that will even talk to Naruto are currently in this room. There are only 3 people not currently in this building that like Naruto. With the exception of Shino, every genin in Naruto's class gazed at the ground. Unlike most of you, Naruto doesn't take his friends for granted," Jiraiya said. Finally, the next and last match was called. Temari and Kiba Inuzuka were there. Both of them went down the stairs. Temari was aware that Gaara was giving her death glares since he was unable to defend himself. Awaiting Hayate's signal to start, they gathered in the center of the arena floor. Kiba charged as soon as Hayate said, "Begin." After Kiba swiped at Temari, he was knocked through the air by a closed fan to the head. Kiba bounced back and charged once more. It seems he was not very good at strategy. This time, Temari opened her fan and swung it, sending Kiba reeling backwards with a sudden, tremendous gust of wind. She made fun of the Inuzuka by saying, "Well, apparently brains aren't your strong suit. I have to admit though, you have a very thick skull, though." Kiba dropped to his knees and yelled, "Bitch, Shikyaku no Jutsu, 4 legs Jutsu." Kiba sprang at Temari, hopping from side to side, believing she couldn't strike him. When she swung her fan once more and blew him away, he was shown to be mistaken. Kiba had already been knocked back 3 times by Temari's attacks, and she had not yet moved from her starting position. "Come on Akamaru," exclaimed Kiba. When his master called for Kiba, Akamaru leapt on his back. Akamaru, Jujin Bunshin, beast human clone, became an exact replica of his master. She made fun of the Inuzuka once more and remarked, "Well, this is interesting. Maybe 2 can put up more of a fight than 1. Kiba gave her a snarl. When he and Akamaru yelled, "Gatsuga, dual-piercing fang," at Temari, Kiba and Akamaru started spinning wildly quickly in Temari's direction. "This is boring," she declared. She grabbed her fan and threw a huge gust of wind at Akamaru and Kiba, causing them to veer off course and collide with the wall behind her. After stumbling a little, Kiba and Akamaru managed to gather themselves. "I have to say this was a boring fight, so I think I'll just end it now." 3 purple moons were visible when Temari fully opened her fan. Sickle Weasel Jutsu, Fuden. Kamaitachi no Jutsu. A tornado erupted around Akamaru and Kiba. As it carried them into the air, the tornado started to make small cuts. Temari saw Kiba's and Akamaru's bodies fall to the ground as the jutsu was completed. Since Kiba was out for the count, Hayate decided to call the match in favor of Temari after the 2 refused to move. "Winner, Temari," declared Hayate. When the matches were finally over, the victorious genin gathered before the Hokage to listen to his remarks. Sasuke questioned, "Shouldn't we wait for Naruto or something?" "No, someone will inform him of all I'm about to tell at a later time. You will all have 1 month's time to prepare for the 3rd round of the exams. It will be tournament style. Now, Ibiki, if you would be so kind. You will each be drawing lots to see who you will face in the first rounds." Ibiki allowed each person to take 1 piece of paper from the box. "Yo, Ibiki, I'll draw for my student," Jiraiya said, approaching Ibiki. "Of course." Jiraiya immediately followed Neji Hyuga. He smiled when he saw Neji's number and realized that he would be playing Naruto in the first match. "Well, Neji, it looks like your first match will either kill you or put you in traction for a few months." After obtaining their numbers, everyone informed Ibiki of them. The first match was Neji Hyuga versus Naruto Uzumaki. Second match Sasuke Uchiha versus Shino Aburame. Third match Temari versus Shikamaru Nara. Fourth, fifth matches will be Rock Lee versus Gaara. Then the winner will fight Kankuro, Ibiki said. This month of training and preparation could be the difference between victory and defeat. Make sure to use the time well, Hiruzen declared before dismissing everyone. The matches are set. Alongside Naruto in the middle of the Forest of Death, Naruto was perched atop the second exam building. He was simply gazing into the woods. "I've been looking for you, Naruto. I thought I'd come and tell you how she's doing." "So, how bad is it, Kurenai?" "Sensei. Well, her internal organs will be fine. The medics can fix just about all of the damage." "Kurenai, just tell me already. Stop trying to sugarcoat it." "It's her heart, Naruto. It took 3 massive hits. It's amazing she's still alive. No one in the village can fix all the damage." "If no one in the village can fix the damage, we'll just have to go outside of it, then." "Naruto, you know that can't be done right now, considering what's going on." "Does it look like I care? Obviously not, but still. Right now we're not sure if she's going to live or not. The damage is extensive. If she lives through the surgery, Hinata may or may not be well enough to attend the first match of the finals. Even then, she will have to go right back to the hospital, because the excitement will be too much for her heart." "What's so important about the first match?" "Well, that would be your match against Neji." Naruto's face broke out in a devilish grin. Kurenai felt a chill run down her spine as Naruto said, "Good. I'll destroy him." Naruto's disposition slightly improved. Naruto got up and left the rooftop, saying, "Well, I'm going home. If Ino's dad comes looking for me, let him know." Well, he's taking this rather well. This is taking it well, Jiraiya? Yeah, it's not like he's gone on a rampage or gone off to find my former teammate Tsunade, now, has he? So that's who he was talking about when he wanted to go outside the village. Yep, he learned a lot more than just how to fight when we trained. The Toads and I taught him just about everything we could, including information on my former teammates and many others from the other 4 great nations. He's got a great memory for some things, a bad one for others. Anyhow, we have things to discuss with the Hokage about our current problem. After that, he and Kurenai vanished. Anko and Iruka were waiting for Naruto when he arrived at Ichiraku's house. Putting on a false smile, Naruto greeted them both. Well, if it isn't Iruka, Sensei and the crazy snake lady. What are you two here for? Replied Naruto. Well, I was waiting for you to get back and congratulate you on passing the 3rd part of the exams, and Anko here wanted me to treat her to some ramen, Iruka responded. Naruto sat on the stool beside Iruka and said, Thanks, Iruka. Sensei, he turned to see Anko's arm encircling Iruka's arm. I see you got yourself a hot but crazy girlfriend, Iruka. Sensei, grinned Naruto. Iruka blushed a little when Naruto said that. Iruka said cheerfully, Anyway, order what you want, Naruto. Yo, old man, 4 bowls of miso ramen with beef. Anko inquired, So, Naruto, how did the prelims go? Oh, they went just fine. I kind of left before the last match, though. Why? Inquired Iruka. It was boring, that's all. After accepting the response, Iruka and Anko received their ramen shortly after. Inoichi approached them as they had just started eating. Inoichi Yamanaka was standing directly behind Narrate when Iruka turned around. It was Iruka who said, What can I do for you, Inoichi? Well, actually, it's Naruto I need to speak with at the moment, he said. Naruto let out a sigh. Naruto leapt from the stool and turned to face Iruka, saying, Well, there goes my food. Naruto and Inoichi said, I'll see you around, Iruka. Sensei, as they left for the village. Something was wrong with Naruto, Iruka whispered. What do you mean, Iruka-kun? He seemed as cheerful as always, Anko replied. You would have to have been around him for a long time to realize he was just acting. Something must have happened after the 2nd part of the chunin exams. I haven't heard anything. Then again, it just ended a little more than 20 minutes ago. With Inoichi and Naruto said, So, I take it you're Ino's dad? I am, said Inoichi. So how is she? As they spoke, the two were strolling along one of the village's busiest streets. Inoichi looked down at Naruto and saw the expression on his face and said, a little shaken, but she's fine. No, she doesn't hate you or anything. It's not like you had any control over what happened to you when you were a baby. But it will be a little while before she can work up the nerve to talk to you again. I see. Now, what else did you come here for? I know it wasn't just to talk about Ino. Right to the point, I see. Yes, I did come to talk to you about something else. It's about what Ino saw while she was there that has me intrigued. Well, could we talk about this at my place? This isn't something I want to discuss out here. I don't see any problems with that. Lead on. They reached the apartment of Naruto. Inoichi was taken aback by the place's somewhat dilapidated appearance. Why don't you live someplace else? Not sure, really. Sure, it's run down, but as long as I can remember, this is the place I called home before I left with Pervy Sage. I just never really thought about leaving it, that's all. The two of them entered the apartment. Naruto removed his sword's sheath strap. After setting the sword beside the couch, he took a seat. Inoichi sat down opposite Naruto. Well, Inoichi, what did you want to ask me about? Well, I would like to see it for myself, instead of ask. Would that be fine with you? I don't see a problem with it. After using his technique, Inoichi entered Naruto's head. He was astounded by how unlike anything else he had ever seen this place was. He saw a huge tree sitting in the middle of what appeared to be an endless green field in front of him. In front of Inoichi, a path that led to the tree emerged. Inoichi went after it. He started walking, but it didn't seem like he was even approaching after a few minutes. He started running as quickly as he could and reached the tree's base an hour later. It was much larger than he had ever thought possible. Inoichi discovered Naruto seated at the tree's base, gazing out into the infinite field. How could you make this? I've seen so many different things before, but nothing such as this. Normally, there is some type of indication of where one's memories are, like a window, doorway, or pictures and things such as that. Honestly, I don't really know myself. The fox told me what to do, and I did it, nothing more. Inoichi said, Wait, so you talked to the fox? I really don't understand why you would willingly let someone invade your mind, boy. Naruto sprayed back, Shut it, fuzzball. Within the Hokage tower. His desk was occupied by Hiruzen. There were shinobi gathered around his desk. They were all commanders of the Anbu and the Chunin. Their sole purpose for being there was to talk about the preparations that should be made for Orochimaru. With a sigh, Hiruzen started talking. You all know why you're here. Orochimaru's appearance is of great concern, as we have no idea what his goals are other than the fact that he is targeting Sasuke Uchiha. I have summoned you all here so I can distribute the orders necessary. The Anbu will shadow all 4 ninja groups. I want to know if any of them are plotting anything, and when, if that is the case. 2 Anbu units will also be assigned to shadow and protect Sasuke Uchiha while he and Kakashi Hitaki are training for the final part of the exams. Both Kakashi and the commanders of the Anbu nodded. To give orders, all but one of the Anbu commanders departed the room. Since he would be leading the 2 units that were supposed to follow Sasuke Uchiha, the other Anbu stayed. Now, the rest of you will go about your business as normal, but you will keep a watchful eye. I also want you to prepare for what is to come if something big happens. The civilians may need to be taken to the shelters, so be sure to prepare everything necessary. There is little that can be done to find Orochimaru at this point, so we can only prepare to the best of our abilities. One Chunin questioned, is all this really necessary? When it comes to my teammate, it is. He's always been a manipulative bastard. He could have the support of one of the villages taking part in the exam for all we know, replied Jiraiya. Indeed. You all have your orders. If anything changes, I'll send word, Hiruzen said. All but Zabuza, Kakashi, Kurenai, and Jiraiya left the room. So how is Naruto? He disappeared right after Hinata's match, Hiruzen replied. As to be expected, Inoichi wanted to talk to Naruto, so I'm guessing he's with him at the moment. Naruto is taking what happened about as well as to be expected, Jiraiya responded. Hiruzen inquired, what is Hinata's condition? We won't really know for sure until the surgery is done, which will be at least another 5 hours or so, replied Kurenai. Alongside Naruto, Takeshi exclaimed, I'll never understand you humans, with a heavy sigh. Takeshi was perched on one of the enormous branches of the tree. Well, no one asked for you to understand, Naruto said. Sometimes you can be so stupid. Yeah, whatever, you talking fur coat. Inoichi appeared somewhat apprehensive of the fox perched in the enormous tree directly above him. He noticed that Naruto was at ease, as if the fox posed no threat at all. He was astounded when the boy publicly insulted the fox and the fox did the same. What exactly is going on? Naruto questioned, what do you mean? Why are you talking with it? And why is he allowed to roam like this? Also, why do you talk so familiarly with it? Takeshi complained about being called it all the time. He doesn't like being called it, and I talk to him because I feel like it, and I allow him to roam because that's what I've decided. The way Inoichi referred to him greatly irritated Takeshi, who said, yes, now leave before I remove you from this place. I grow tired of your presence. Inoichi took that action. When he was in Naruto's head, he had no idea what the fox might do to him, and he didn't want to know. Both Naruto and Inoichi got up from their seats. So, Inoichi, what do you plan on putting in your report? I know you're going to write a report about this. Well, Naruto, I'm a little upset to learn that you converse and engage with the fox, but since the Hokage and Jiraiya Sama trust you, I'll follow suit until they and I both feel differently. Naruto sighed, sitting in his apartment by himself, the day having been a royal sham for him, and he had no idea what to do for the remainder of the day. Inoichi left Naruto's apartment to go do things that he had to, considering who was now lurking in the village. Naruto disappeared from his apartment to think. Naruto couldn't sleep because he had too much going on in his head right now, and he had been sitting on the Hokage monument for nearly 7 hours, just staring into the village. It was now midnight. What is it that you require, Kurenai? Sensei, Naruto inquired. I came to inform you that Hinata is no longer undergoing surgery. She is now accompanied by her sister. I assumed you would like to come visit. How about her dad? Kurenai's response, no, he didn't go to see her, was filled with hatred and contempt for the man. Well, I may stop by later. Go now, please. Right now, I'd prefer to be by myself. But Naruto, I told you to go, he shouted. Naruto was left to his own thoughts after Kurenai nodded and grudgingly left the Hokage monument. Naruto then got up and vanished from atop the monument in a whirl of leaves. Alongside Hanabi had arrived as soon as she received word that Hinata was out of surgery, and she sat by the side of the bed where her sister was now, hooked up to a variety of machines and other devices to keep her vitals stable. Hinata lay still on the bed, hooked up to the machines, and she was much paler than usual. The only sound in the room was the machines connected to Hinata, and Hanabi sat in complete silence, not even noticing Naruto standing right behind her. Naruto had silently appeared behind Hanabi, not moving, even lowering his breathing to avoid detection. Naruto remained silent for 10 minutes while standing behind Hanabi. "How is she doing?" he inquired. Hanabi nearly screamed as she leapt from her chair, saying, "What? How? How did you enter this place? Guards are on duty at the entrance. You've been standing there for how long?" Hanabi immediately assumed a soft fist position as she asked. "Oh, please relax, I'm not here to cause harm to others. I play with Hinata," Naruto said. "I came to visit after hearing she was out of surgery." "Oh, and I've been standing behind you for 10 minutes or so." Without changing her position, she asked defensively, "Then why didn't you come through the door like normal people?" "Well, that's an interesting story. Short version is your clan and most of the village despises me and wouldn't let me in if I walked through the front door," he said casually. Hanabi hasn't changed her position yet. "What's keeping me from calling the guards?" she inquired. The chair Hanabi was in just a minute before Naruto took it. "Well, nothing really, I guess. Go ahead, if it makes you feel better. But I'll be gone before they enter the room. Keep up your guard if you want. I just came here to see Hinata, that's all. Be paranoid all you like." As Hanabi lowered her soft fist stance, she inquired, "What's your name?" "That would be Naruto Uzumaki," said he. "What would yours be?" "Mine's Hanabi Hyuga." Naturally, Naruto was already aware of her identity. "Also, you're Hinata's little sister. She talked about you a little bit before the prelims began." Someone was coming down the hall, Naruto heard. He breathed deeply. "Well, it seems I have to go. Someone's coming. Perhaps we'll talk later." As the door opened, Hanabi nodded and saw Naruto vanish from the room. The door was opened by Heishi Hyuga. Hanabi bowed to her father right away. Hanabi waited outside. "I'll be with you in a moment," Heishi said. After giving a nod, Hanabi hurried out of the room to wait for her father outside. On the chair beside Hinata's bed, Heishi took a seat. He didn't let anyone see him leave the estate or come here, and he hadn't told anyone that he had gone to see Hinata. He thought he saw Naruto in the room as he was entering it. But since Hanabi was the only one present, he must have been wrong. Heishi got to his feet. He had an image to maintain, of course, so he didn't have the luxury of staying. He brushed aside a lock of hair that was in Hinata's face and started to leave. "I'm sorry this happened, Hinata." After saying those few words, he left the room and went back to the estate with Hanabi.
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.